Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like savings again. No. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space.
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. It's a pleasure to have you start your morning with us. Let's see what's making the headlines this morning. CBN earns 3.1 billion naira interest in federal government's ways and means. No going back in for naira for crude implementation, says federal government. Federal government rescues 78 trafficked victims in Côte d'Ivoire. Zelensky says Ukraine is ready to meet Russia only if ceasefire agreed. Chelsea women complete unbeaten season. Well, let's begin the news in Nigeria, where the Central Bank of Nigeria has earned 3.1 billion naira as interest on the federal government's overdraft facility in 2024. According to a report from the Apex Bank, this is down sharply from the 1.6 trillion naira it earned in 2023. This interest income, categorized under loans and receivables in the CBN's 2024 financials, is tied to the controversial Ways and Means facility, an overdraft provided by the bank to the federal government to plug short-term fiscal shortfalls. The drastic drop in interest income comes after the federal government securitized 22.7 trillion naira worth of outstanding overdraft in 2023, converting them into 40-year bonds with a 3-year moratorium. Moving on, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has once more revealed that the Technical Subcommittee on the Crude and Refined Product Sales in Naira is proceeding with the implementation of the Naira for Crude deal. The minister, during a meeting of the committee in Abuja, expressed satisfaction with the level of interagency collaboration and involvement of relevant stakeholders. Statement released by the Finance Ministry on Saturday reviewed the implementation milestones of the policy and noted progress made since its last engagement. This arrangement is part of President Bola Tinubu's economic strategy to stabilize the Naira, improving energy security and deepening local value addition within Nigeria's petroleum sector. Still on, no fewer than 78 Nigerians rescued from human traffickers in Côte d'Ivoire have arrived in Lagos. The victims, comprising 73 females, 2 males and 3 babies, arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos on Saturday, May 10th. Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking, Binta Bello, received them at the airport. The minister revealed that the return of the victims continues to show the agency's commitment to the fight against human trafficking, urging the public to raise awareness, report suspicious activities, and stand together against the grave violation of human dignity. Now to end the local news, former First Lady Patience Jonathan has ruled out returning to Aso Rock Villa, declaring that she will campaign alongside the First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu ahead of the 2027 general elections. Remi revealed this after receiving the Women Icon Leader of the Year award from Accolade Dynamics Limited in Abuja on Saturday night. The former First Lady says she has a long-standing relationship with Remi Tinubu that predates their time in Aso Rock, recalling how Remi Tinubu and the president supported her and her husband when they contested for the presidency in 2011. And on the foreign scene, President Volodymyr Zelensky has revealed that it was a positive sign that Russia was considering ending the war in Ukraine after offering direct talks. Zelensky's comments came after Russian President Vladimir Putin invited Ukraine to take part in serious negotiations in a late-night address. The Western powers have also called for a 30-day pause in fighting to begin on Monday after European leaders spearheading the coalition of the willing met in Kyiv on Saturday. However, a Ukraine official says there must be a ceasefire before direct talks over ending the war. Also, Pope Leo XIV has appealed for no more war in a message to world powers during his first Sunday address at the Vatican. Reflecting on current conflicts, the newly selected pontiff called for a lasting peace in the war in Ukraine, a ceasefire in Gaza, welcoming Saturday's agreement to end recent hostilities between India and Pakistan. The Pope says he was deeply hurt by events in Gaza, expressing hope for a lasting accord between India and Pakistan. Pope Leo will be formally inaugurated at the Mass in St. Peter's Square next week on 18th May. And now to sports. Chelsea women has claimed the first ever 22-game Women's Super League undefeated season with a dramatic 1-0 victory against Liverpool. The Blues women secured the title with 60 points, including 19 wins and 3 draws. With the chances secured, Chelsea became the first side to go a 22-game Women's Super League season unbeaten after scoring the stoppage time winner. And to end the news, British heavyweight Hugh Fury has declared that Anthony Joshua's boxing career is nearing its end, believing he would defeat the former unified champion more devastatingly than Daniel Dubois did. Joshua suffered a crushing 5th-round knockout loss to Dubois in September 2024, marking the lowest point of his career. The defeat, which came after earlier knockdowns and a first-round scare, was Joshua's 4th professional loss, following setbacks against Andy Ruiz and twice against Alexander Usyk. Joshua has, however, revealed his intention to return for one final run, despite currently recovering from injury. Well, that does it this morning on the BDTV Breakfast News. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Up next is the newspaper review.
Hello, this is Bode Oshosami on Global Business Insights on BDTV, where we bring ideas and discussions on the business headlines.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
Welcome to the BusinessDay Future of Payment Conference 2025.
The BusinessDay Future of Payments Conference 2025 brought together fintech experts at the 4 Points by Sheraton in Lagos, Nigeria on the 30th of April. The conference themed Fintech Evolution, Contactless Payments as the gateway to seamless transactions, had many stakeholders and professionals present during the occasion. The welcome address was delivered by Zebulon Agommo, BD Sunday editor, on behalf of the publisher Mr. Frank Aibogun.
Today's theme, Fintech Evolution, Contactless Payments are the gateway to seamless transactions, speaks directly to the shift we are witnessing in the way people and businesses move money around. From the market stalls in Lagos to global e-commerce platforms, the demand for speed, safety, and simplicity is driving innovation like never before.
In the keynote address, Mr. Ugo Obasi, Executive Director at Afrigo, spoke on the history and evolution of contactless payments and its aim to strengthen the financial sector and economic growth.
Fraud has become a major concern globally. In our domestic market, lack of authentication for smaller transactions in contactless payments could raise additional concerns for users. So we hear stories of, when I tap my card on a machine, or somebody takes your card, or even you pass, and a reader or a device with a reader can take your money even in your pocket. So some of those things are myths that we have to address.
The Managing Director and CEO of RedTech Limited, Mr. Emmanuel Ojo, gave a presentation on future of payments and the changing role of technology in driving innovation.
There are predictions that in the continent, by year 2030, the growth of young Africans would have increased by 42%. And predictions have it that by year 2100, the growth would have increased by 181%. The reality is that digital payments are mostly powered by younger folks, because younger folks are more inquisitive and they have the tendency to like to drive innovation. So we believe that in the continent will significantly benefit from the youths going forward.
The program moved to a panel discussion on the next evolution of digital payments and contactless payments, with opportunities for questions and answers from the fintech experts.
Nigeria is a very peculiar market. Our current demographics, about 18 to 45, about 70% of our population lie between the ages of 18 and 45 years. So what that means is you're going to see a significant adoption of new and emerging technologies in this market, perhaps even more than any other market you look at in the Africa region, right? Look at what's happening in crypto. Nigeria is the number 2 market globally, not in Africa, right? Globally.
You are watching Business Day Television.
Welcome back to the BDTV Breakfast Show. Now it's time for us to see what we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. We'll start off this morning with the Business Day newspaper. Of course, I have in the studio with me Mohammed Akonji, our very own in-house analyst. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Oh, it was good. Very well. Thank you. Maybe I will not be able to repeat what you want me to say. But that was yours too. And this was a weekend.
You're already going, you see.
I know it was dominated. Maybe the MVCA was actually the highlight for me. And then my Friday ushered in. We had a very, very important strategic brainstorming session. Then maybe the AMVCA, I think the buzz around it was everywhere I was. In fact,
it's the biggest night in
I actually knew about it from the retreat that we had on Friday, where one of the speakers, they actually mentioned about the buzz around it. And then, so it's caught my fancy, caught my attention. And I think I was actually able to see the glitz and glamour. Maybe it's at least it shows how Africa has actually gone, in terms of organizing an event.
And one thing with the AMVCAs is that the AMVCA happens to be the biggest night in entertainment. I
think so.
The biggest, I think so.
Because what I'm saying that is, I used to believe it's Eddie's at the time. I think it's Eddie's,
no.
But the Eddie's this year was totally flop.
They've come a long way. But one thing that is recurring in the mouths of people is that they don't seem to have. They've not tightened,
Okay, that's exactly.
In terms of the look and feel, in terms of, there's still a lot of glitches for something that's been
glitches.
How many years?
The one is 17th edition.
Yes.
For AMVC is 11th.
This is just the 11th
Eddie's
edition,
17th.
and it just keeps getting better and better from the
getting better and better.
To the people, now this year's theme also was, I think it was something around the earth and then earth. Yes.
Okay.
So you'd see many of them.
Okay, just into that
nature. You're seeing flowers. You're seeing trees. And I was wowed. One thing that really thrills me, one thing that really excited me, how I am about
fashion. I know.
One thing that really excited me is I saw the pure artistry.
Of course,
our fashion
designers are actually coming up with.
It's not. I'm like, this is Met Gala standard. We need to start. They need to start inviting many more of us to the Met Gala, because I was looking at the Met Gala.
Just on Monday. It was
lovely. It was beautiful. But I can't wait to be seeing the Vicky James,
these design for stylists.
All of these people, they are doing amazing work. I saw some girl had this. She had this outfit that was like a tree that was planted.
Planted.
Yes, I would share it with
you. Literally planted.
Yes, it was like a tree planted. From Big Brother doing. She had that outfit. There was Osaz Godaro that had.
I think I saw Osaz. The thing actually dangling behind her, like a tree branch or something. Yes,
The theme of the dress was also grass, water, and sand. You probably did not take notes, so you will go
that,
back now and check.
Of course,
so
you
you see the green is grass.
Okay.
The brown is sand.
Sand, okay, and
then the silver is water.
Okay.
It was just beautiful how they merged that
those
theme
things
and
together.
just made everything. There was this lady that always comes every time to the red carpet and always makes a statement. But for me, I'm already kind of very. It's all too familiar now.
Okay, that every now and then you get to see.
Nana Eku. Ecuador. She's from Ghana.
Okay,
so she comes every time for the MVCAs and she always makes a statement. But one thing, her outfit this time around was very futuristic. So she had on this dress and then had this revolving. So it was revolving.
Okay.
Yes, it was beautiful. So at the back it was connected, like the pack was connected to like the electricity, like the battery.
Okay.
So you turn it on, then it's moving.
You're revolving about.
It's moving. It was really beautiful, futuristic. However, for me, if I'm being honest, it didn't
lovely. Capture the theme.
You understand?
The theme
so again,
of the event,
I'm already kind of used to a kind of outfit these days. It always has white or silver themes.
Okay,
while she's always like, everyone always says, "Oh, she's coming." When I came this year, I'm like, it would be nice if she's coming next year to just come with a different suite because it has become all too fast.
But I'm sure that ahead of the event, the attendees are always informed about the theme of the event. So for you to be able to ensure you plan yourself and
so
you put and dress in that stead. Okay, the theme.
And
okay, well maybe I didn't really want the word carpet to me. Sorry, but I think it is during the award session itself. You know, when the movies are actually called the top movies, the top gongs were actually being awarded, and maybe one of them was actually the Seven Doors, you know, but for the best actor and the best actress. I think it's
was that the one that
Femi Adebayo and Chioma Chukwuka, exactly. But what I'm saying is, I see how emotional. I mean, you can be able to see the outpouring of emotion from, and he tried to be able to recount the experience that he had while actually be able to shoot that movie was good. And then maybe the surprising thing to me, as I told you at the BTS, was actually the best movie because I was actually shocked. I've never even heard of the movie anyway. That was the name of the movie. I've never heard of it anyway. But yesterday I heard about it.
Did it have anything to do with?
That's to do with police brutality. No. Police brutality. Police brutality. Things around. I think about change makers, police brutality. I think that is the theme of actually that movie. But it's actually very good.
So it had a good theme.
Very, very good. And it tends to be able to reverberate, you know, with people. So I never had of just like I said. Lisa B was also nominated. For Best Indigenous Award, Best Indigenous in West Africa. But I think it was actually quite a spectacle yesterday, and I mean on Saturday. And I mean it is because what I'm saying is I look at my expectation at the headies that I watched last month compared to these, and it's a stark contrast. That's what I'm actually saying.
Is big.
It's very massive.
They also introduced something really interesting this time around. There was a co-host who was young. It was a year, I think about 16,
somebody was saying that, yes.
From Road 14 Studios, and I thought that was really brilliant. Really, shout out to Africa Magic.
I mean, it's really,
they keep upping their game. They just show us why they're really who they are. So well done.
They are
and
really top guys in the game. All the winners, all the winners. A lot of them are winners as well, because I think that is one of the things was mentioned. For those who didn't be able to get a gong yesterday, who couldn't be able to get anything. Everybody, for the fact that you're ever nominated and you have a nomination to say, oh, you are part of the nominees, it is really something.
It is something. So even the nominees, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal for MVCA, for countless number of movies that we're able to have out there.
Yep. So let's talk about what we have on the front pages this morning. Let's start off with the Business Day newspaper, just as I said. And the big story here says patients languish as Japa drives pool of specialist doctors. About 16,000 consultants left Nigeria in 5 years. Another story here says local firms ride divestment to grow oil output. Seplat revives 10 idle wells, boost up output of 167%. Aradel's investing cash level up by 341.5%. But let's talk about
Japa challenge
in the healthcare sector.
Well, at least Nigerian version of brain drain is Japa. Thank you very much for actually able to make that. And I think it's a very, very big challenge. In fact, the survey done by the correspondent there revealed the unbelievable, the shocking trend of the numbers of healthcare professionals, gynecologists, mental health specialists, videographers, surgeons that we have in Nigeria, and the number has actually been able to gone down. It has gone down quite dramatically. Of course, we know it as a result of the Japa trend. In the last 2-3 years, I think there's a particular report in Vanguard I was hearing this morning that in fact, because of the Japa trend, UK government is trying to be able to tighten visas for social care workers and skilled migrants who are actually coming in. So we know the implication of JAPA, and that, I mean, this is actually spotlighted for us to be able to see the ugly trend, the consequence of that, especially on Nigeria's health sector. So we know very well that, for example, as at the moment, the survey revealed that there are just about 25 oncologists, cancer specialists, that can be able to treat. You can be able to imagine 50 million people who are actually be able to prone to cancer issues. At the same time, there are just like about 50 neurologists and about 40 neurosurgeons in Nigeria to be able to cater for people within that particular space. So it is really, really a very, very big challenge. And then those studies as well, gynecology says about 9,000 compared to the number of women who actually be able to give birth on a daily basis. And all these numbers, if you compare them to the last 5 years, you see that there is a marked reduction, a very, very sharp reduction in them. So the effort, of course, I mean, it is a no-brainer, or it is actually staring us in the face. The damaging effect, the damaging effect that this is actually having on us. Even though the last Minister of Health was actually claiming, yes, we have enough. I remember one of the former Minister of Health then saying something about, yes, the doctors can go. We have enough here to be able to take care of people, of patients in Nigeria. But the reality is dawning on us now that what has happened, especially between after COVID, you know, from 2021 to date, where Middle East, Asia, Europe have tend to be able to take a lot of, you know, our healthcare professionals. It is having a serious telling effect, you know, on the nation's health trajectory, and as well as the people that are already here. So at the same time, concerns have actually been about what is actually driving it, and that's where we feel like it is to be able to tackle the root cause on the part of the government. For example, people have been complaining about the unattractive nature of, you know, emoluments, remunerations are actually able to pay to doctors, and that is one of the major push factor away from Nigeria to leave the shores of here. So maybe countries. Exactly. So the working conditions, the pay packets, the pay structures, and then, you know, in terms of the doctors to patient ratio as well, is also, so you tend to be able to overwork most of, I'm talking about doctors, other healthcare professional, nurses, gynecologists, oncologists and the likes, who tend to be able to talking about maybe a one medical professional to like about 10,000 patients. That can really be grueling. That can really be able to take a whole lot, you know, take a toll on some of these professionals. So effort needed to actually be made, just like you said. I think you're mentioning about, was it not 40%, or was the number you'll be able to work there?
I talked about 16,000 consultants.
16,000 consultants that have left.
In 5 years.
And can be able to imagine how many, by very huge number, very huge number. So to most of the health experts are canvassing for policies, you know, government will really be able to come up on policies, but not the policies of forcing people to say you cannot travel, but to be able to see attractive policies that will encourage people to stay, rather than, you know, forcefully. You cannot be able to force them, because the issue about saying, you know, you cannot go, you cannot do this, has actually not been able to yield those results. Yeah, government came up with another policy at the time to say you're going to sign a bond, you know, maybe a bond of after you finished from medical school, and then getting those subventions from the government, and you'll be able to sign a bond of 5 years, or you must have worked here 3 years before you travel. We don't know how far that has actually worked, you know, the implication or the success of that. But the policies, certain policies that needed to be able to arrest this trend, because the trend is taking a toll on the health future of the nation. Absolutely.
Let's talk about the next story, because hopefully we hope that very soon the government takes, you know, there's a restructuring of the healthcare sector, because we truly need to take charge of that sector.
A very serious charge of it.
That sector needs help.
And it's very
important. No doubt. But let's talk about this other story here, which says local firms ride divestment to grow oil output and you know,
yeah, of course. I'm sure you know the IOCs, exactly. Most of the IOCs, the deep pockets, the companies with the deep pocket, the companies with the technical expertise in the field, they've actually been leaving the shores of the country, especially as a result of the global uncertainty. So that is actually be able to open up a whole lot of spaces, you know, for local players, just like you said, Seplat, Haradel. We've seen a whole lot of them that actually be able to revive dormant oil wells, you know, that they've had. Seplat recently acquired ExxonMobil's onshore assets in Nigeria. That was done in 2024, and they've actually been able to use it as a means of actually meeting, because the target of this is the government is trying to be able to give them enough attention to be able to meet the oil barrel projection for this year, as well as the 3 million barrel that the president is actually talking about, how to be able to drive it to 3 million barrels. And one strategy the government felt that can be used to be able to achieve that is to invest in most of the local players who are indigenous companies. They are locally owned here, and then this is like our own. So the divestment of the IOCs, who have actually been the biggest players, in all these spaces, just like I said, ExxonMobil, Shell, Snepco, and the likes, that have been a major player here. You've seen a lot of divestment in them, exactly, recently. They're divesting away from that particular space, and the divestment is actually opening up a lot of spaces for them. So just like you're able to mention about Haradale, about Seplat, and in fact, there were also reports, of other players, other local players as well, venturing into the space to ensure that they're able to drive oil production up, to be able to meet to be able to meet the oil production target, the budget assumptions, that's one, as well as our OPEC quotas, because remember, we've not been able to meet that up since the beginning of the year. 1.5 million barrels what has been given, and then we've actually been struggling about 1.3, 1.2, and the highest we have done maybe in March was about 1.4 million barrels. So most of these local players, the government see them as a good strategic move to be able to ensure that we achieve the budget assumption of the 2.07 million barrels, as well as, you see the president every now and then mentioning about, we need to be able to go back to those days where we're able to do about 3 million and 4 million barrels per day.
All right, let's take a look at what we have on the front pages of the Punch this morning. Now, the big story on the front page here says, Reverse Emergency Rule. Federal government taps ex-AGF. 11 sons as Supreme Court battle looms. This battle has been on for a while now. Now, Supreme Court may release hearing dates today. And PDP governors legal team prepares as AGF says governors forum lack local standing. Now, on the top left-hand side of the Punch paper, it says PDP installs new board of trustee members as governors map party direction. This continues on page 9 of the Punch paper. And then on page 2, it says federal government makes U-turn, endorses Senate Security Summit. And on page 7, it says why Jonathan won't run against Tinubu in 2027. This one is Patience Jonathan speaking. And then on the bottom left-hand side of the Punch newspaper this morning, also there's a picture here as well of, Pope Leo the 14th in the front page here. I don't know why you're laughing, but yeah. Then on the bottom left-hand side says NCAA under fire after plane strikes antelope on taxiway. That's just bizarre and absurd. Then on page 40 it says Ayedatiwa Makinde Bamidele salute Afenifere leader Fashion Roti at 99. You see, when I see people reaching 99, I just find this person and just tap from this or like how did you do it? Now, federal government states add 57 trillion naira to debt in 18 months. Again, we're talking debt again. This is on page 31. But let's just take a quick stab at the reverse emergency rule.
I think we spoke about it last Monday. So Supreme Court, remember that 11 PDP governors have actually instituted a proceeding against President Tinubu, the Attorney General of the Federation, the Federal Government, National Assembly, as respondents in the case. And their document were submitted last week. They submitted the document last week, and we expect the counter suit was also filed by the federal government to say, like you said, the governors do not have the local standard, to institute that legal action against. So they were, remember, just as a bit of an explainer, the governors were asking the Supreme Court to provide a clarity and explanation as to that, emergency power of the president. Does he really have it? Does the president have the power to suspend the governor, suspend the National Assembly, and some of those other provisions, that they'll be able to list in their suits? But the AGF, the current AGF, Lateef Fagbemi, filed also a counter suit to that effect to say that maybe the governors do not be able to have that power because the emergency power is drawn from the 1999 Constitution. And of course, just like we said last week, we need the Supreme Court to be able to give us a clear explanation and a clear interpretation of that section of the Constitution. But just this morning, Punch reported that just as the PDP governors have actually been able to, assembled a team of about, I think they assembled about 15 lawyers. 10 of them were sons. Federal government too had just assembled a assembled a 10-man team to be able to defend them, led by Chief Akiolujimi. If you remember him, was a former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. And then we have other, other notable bigwigs, political juggernaut, legal juggernaut as well, that will be able to defend the federal government. But we all know the backstory to it. It is still with respect to what happened in Rivers State. And in fact, I was shocked. Yesterday, the governor himself, I think it was maybe getting people to read the story, and he was actually saying that I'm talking about the governor himself, who is in the eye of the storm, Fubara, about, the likelihood of him returning back to power after 6 months, that's there. And in fact, I was actually telling the supporters that it's more or less that they are crying more than they believe.
It's been how many months now?
It started in March 18. That was when it was declared.
March, April.
So it's supposed to be able to land by August, October. That was actually the target. March 18 was when the president declared that emergency rule, emergency in the state, and then so 18th of March, and it took effect exactly that day before the National Assembly ratified it. But just like we said, it will be a serious legal firework because the kind of sands that the PDP governors have assembled from their own hand, to be able to crank metals or to be able to crank take up issues with another set of sands, the Akiolujimi himself and 11 other sons were assembled by the federal government to be able to prosecute the case on their behalf. But of course, lawyers have actually been divided as to does the president have the power? Of course, what we know the Central Supreme Court to do, and since because it is a case of state against the federal government, so it's just going to go straight to the Supreme Court. It's not starting on any court other than the Supreme Court. So it's going to be able to release today the timetable of proceedings when they will be able to start, when hearings will start, and then where parties will be able to advance their positions. So I think then the other thing there was the wife of the former president, President Jonathan. Okay. I would say yesterday that in fact he's going to campaign for Tinubu in 2027. She said that because she was awarded. She was going to be able to there is no Oluwemi Tinubu support her, and then because the president campaigned for her husband in 2011 when they were still in ACN before it became APC. So it was shocking to some end. I mean, people were asking, okay, is your husband going to run again? He still has, remember, the one-time opportunity. He couldn't be able to complete his 2 terms, and then that was what she said. No, there is no vacancy as well in Aso Rock. Maybe it's really getting, the political, just like I said, the political permutation is getting, sorted out, and we are trying to be able to see the clear picture of how the battlefield will really look at. And then the final one there was, remember, I think it was last week we said where National Assembly called for a security summit about the firepowers of the Boko Haram. Like I think we spoke about that here. That the firepower that they have is superior to that of our Nigerian armed forces. Yeah. And then the Minister of Defense came out to say, what is the essence of talk? It's just a mere talk show. That, it disagreed with that position that non-state actors cannot have a superior firepower relative to our Nigerian military. But so the Minister of Defense, Badawi, was the one who said there is no need for security summit. The federal government is doing everything to be able to defeat them. Whether that is the case, it's left to be seen. But they made a U-turn now to say, yes, maybe they will sign up on the security summit as well to see how to chart ways forward to be able to deal with the insecurity situation in Nigeria.
All right, and then I mean, Fubara also says it's not desperate to return
back to power. I think that's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, it's not desperate to return, and that people are more like, because what are you doing? They are kind more than they believed. That people tend to be able to. People are doing things that he didn't send them. That kind of a thing. But that was what he was actually mentioning at an event to be able to mark the funeral of Pa Edwin Clark. I think that was where he'd be able to make some statements to say.
But I actually like that outlook to things, like just being this person that it's good, but
it's not a do or die.
It's not a do or die. Nothing is a do or die. People need to know that
people should not be able to. But don't forget, this man here met with the president in London, and today by 10 a.m. Wike is having a media chat this morning, and in fact I said he's going to be able to release a whole lot just 10 a.m. this morning. I mean, a media chat, some media houses will actually be there, and I'm sure there is a lot of, because there is a peace accord that has been initiated between him and his predecessor, I mean Minister Wike. So I'm sure this morning he'll be able to tell us about some of those things. I know he's a loose cannon. He will definitely be able to tell you everything that happened. And then there were reports, unconfirmed reports as well anyway, that there were close of ranks between him when he went to visit the president in London during the last work visit of the president to London, and discussions were ongoing. In fact, people were saying he might likely be able to join the APC.
All right, fingers crossed on that one. Let's just skim through what we have on the front page of the Vanguard paper this morning. Still on, it says, despite concerns, federal government ramps up domestic borrowing up to 10.85 trillion naira. They shift their borrowing preference to T-bills amidst high interest rates and deficits to escalate as oil revenue underperforms. Now, analysts disagree over impact of GDP rebasing on debt ratio. Now, there's a conference hall and experts are to brainstorm on government performance at midterm. And this story continues on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Then Defense Minister backtracks the support Senate Security Summit. We already spoke about that one. Nigeria and others affected as UK clamps down on care workers' visas, and that's usually like the route where many Nigerians
tend to be able to use
go. Then State of the Nation, one-party state will be strongly resisted. This is from Senator Bucknor Akerele. Then speaking on the defections, 7 PDP governors, Wike ex-governors, others, they meet on survival. Now, Eno, Kefas, Diri, Fubara, absent at this meeting. Internal forces sabotaging Atiku's quiet efforts to stabilize the PDP. Then on the bottom left-hand side of the Vanguard paper, it says NPA debunks allegation of multi-billion corruption. This is on page 24 of the Vanguard paper. Now, talking about the local government polls, protests trail Lagos APC primaries over Baba Sokpe's influence. Then speaking on Baba Sokpe's influence.
This is Baba Sokpe's influence.
Because you know there's a name that's also Sokpe.
The only way is Baba Sokpe, like this is the candidate.
Oh, really?
Like this is you are the next candidate,
wow.
And then you will be like that's not Baba Sokpe.
Interesting.
Like it is you. You will be the next chairman, and that is regardless of what people could say. That's Baba Sokpe.
In the world of sports, says under 20 AFCON. Eagles coach vows to clinch World Cup tickets.
Yes, okay.
As they battle
Can I
Senegal
just quickly react to some? Okay, yes, Senegal in quarterfinal. That's on Wednesday. But you need to be able to get to the quarterfinal before you can go to the World Cup, which is actually holding in Turkey later this year. They've done very well, but Nigeria and Senegal will be able to meet on Wednesday to that effect. And yesterday, on Saturday, was the APC primary election. Maybe I should talk about that. APC primary election for the July 25 local government elections. And I'm sure a lot of protests trailed it anyway. My local government as well. In fact, think of the people to mention this because I know we had some protests at the local government. I mean, at the place very close to local government in the Bejuleki where people protested. Though the present chairman was actually given a bye. And then other candidates who have bought the form as well protested. And I'm sure we'll still be able to learn a whole lot of what actually happened as of the primary. The election is coming up in July. And PDP hasn't had their own primary yet. We would see how that will be able to go on. And then more importantly there was federal government now, borrowing now. It seems that federal government actually be able to focus attention on domestic borrowing than foreign borrowing. And that's what you can be able to see there. Issues have actually been on as to, especially through treasury bills. In fact, I think one of our pages today was what DMO released about sending out some government stocks as well. I think it's actually there, if I'm not mistaken. You can see that. So the debt management office just be able to release another tranche, another long-term offer for subscription as well, So these are just what government is actually doing. How that will be effective as opposed to external borrowing that is actually denominated in dollars and can be able to put foreign exchange pressures is left to be seen. Experts actually differ as far as that is also concerned. And just like I think the final part there was UK climbing down on social care. I think I looked at that on BBC yesterday night. I was just watching and they said they want to really climb up on that seriously. And in fact, to ensure that before you can be able to come at social care, people must have a university degree. And there's some other conditions as well, which they will release on Tuesday. BBC mentioned that the government, UK's government office, Home Office will be able to release new guidelines, and they're trying to tighten more around.
And of course, Kemi Badenoch is not. She's just blowing hot about the matter.
That people are just taking advantage of that route, and then especially Nigerians and Pakistanis will be these are the two group. I mean, the two largest segment that dominate that particular space, and this will likely be able to affect them.
All right, that's as much as we can take this morning on the front paper review. It was lovely speaking with you, Mohammed Akonji. But before we go, let's just see what we have in the cartoon of the day. So that's the cartoon of the day right there. It says, of course, black smoke means there is no hope. So
what do you think this means? You know, if you look at the Papa the Conclave, when they have black smoke and the white smoke, I think they said
white smoke was when we had
the Pope. You know, Pope is available. Okay.
But now we're seeing
so this is now refinery,
and then there's black smoke coming out and says, of course,
this is quite ingenious. So black smoke there is saying that we are still burning. We'll still be able to burn, and what's it called, the gas flare. We're still flaring the gases.
Flaring gas.
And then hope is not on the horizon. Maybe the Warrior Refinery. Until we start to be able to see the white smoke or something, that will be able to give us an idea that yes.
We might not even necessarily see white
smoke. I know,
but
doing this is money. If you to flare gas in this way, this is billions of dollars that's actually going. Yes, for this flare, if it is still there. The Warrior Refinery has failed to be able to lift up. You know, but I just like the way he's able to connect.
I really like
the Papa,
honestly, I really shout
the
out
conclave,
to
exactly. And then look into exactly. It's still black smoke. There's still no hope.
Right.
Hopefully.
Well done to Mr. Asuko for the brilliant cartoon, brilliant way he always captures all of the stories. But thank you so much, Mohammed, for your time this morning. It was lovely speaking with you. And that's how we bring it to wraps here on the BDTV newspaper review. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching BDTV.
Watching Business Day Television.
So this talent management conference is a strategic gathering of CEOs, HR professionals, policymakers, and wellness advocates who are committed in different ways to building a resilient, productive people, having a primary focus on ensuring the well-being of our people.
Business Day Media held its Talent Management Conference on the 8th of April 2025. The conference brought together a spectacular corp of CEOs, top HR professionals, government policymakers, and wellness advocates committed to building resilient people-first organizations in Nigeria. The publisher of Business Day, Mr. Frank Ibogun, delivered a welcome address speaking to the theme of the occasion.
With 74% of Nigerian employees reportedly disengaged at work and productivity losses exceeding billions of dollars annually, the urgency to rethink talent management in our organizations has never been greater. This conference serves as a vital platform to explore how aligning employee well-being with organizational goals can unlock untapped profitability and, of course, long-term competitiveness. From practical wellness initiatives to engagement-driven leadership models, this event offers actionable insights to Nigerian businesses ready to future-proof their organization's workforce.
As the event proceeded, the keynote address was given by Professor Akin Abayomi, Honorable Commissioner of the Lagos State Ministry of Health, who made emphasis on employee well-being, health, among all the critical areas of well-being.
Your health as an employee, we have to make sure that you are a healthy person and that you are in a fit state to make the contribution for which you've been engaged to do. But at the same time, we don't want the workspace to contribute negatively to your health and well-being. And so the workspace is a complex environment from the moment you leave your home till the moment you get to your office, if you are doing a physical job, or if you are in a virtual space, that connectivity is important. So we look at even issues around commuting, transportation. How do you get to work? When you get to work, What is the comfort level of your work environment? What is the government doing in terms of policy around occupational health? What is the government doing about recreational spaces around your work environment? Do you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to work? And then you are dredging the fact that as you knock off, you're going to be spending another 2 or 3 hours commuting to get back home. So, government's role is very holistic. Our job as government is to improve the livability of a system, of a city, to ensure that when you are in the space of a city, whether you're living with your family or you're working or you're commuting, that it is easy for you to be in that environment.
The conference featured informative panel sessions with an array of reputable speakers.
Wellness is encompassing. Wellness is very personal. I can't build a wellness initiative for you. You have to build it with me. And that's why we use what we call the EIP approach, employee involvement and participation. This comes with our 4 phases. And the first phase is we will have what we call the wellness risk assessment. I want to know what is about your health life, your financial disposition, what is your psychological state. And so we develop an evaluation tool that enables us to gather that data. Then we don't stop at that data, we probe further. So we come up with an holistic survey, and the survey covers the total well-being of our employees. And we ask simple questions like, do you have a best friend at work? Because it matters. The emotional state of an employee matters. The social strata of an employee matters. And that helps us to build the initiatives. So we just don't stop at building, then we measure. Just like Benga said, it's very important. We have what we call wellness goals. So you start with your individualized wellness goal, which will not put together.
I'll come to measurements.
To measurements. And so it's very important. And finally, wellness is beyond initiative. Wellness is a culture. So we weave it into our daily lives. We have things like you have daily stretches on your desk. We have Wednesday wellness tips that we tell you communication about wellness. We let you know what is going on within the public space. So thank you to our Nobel Commissioner. It's nice having you here, sir. So as you push out this information, and I think more information needs to go out to HR people so they can get their people aware what's going on out there. Because everybody needs wellness education. And you need to know that wellness just is beyond health. Is also financial. So when Otame was talking about how is our paycheck, I can proudly say our paycheck is good because it's part of the strategy of the organization. Because if you don't have your people have that sense of wellness, sense of well-being, that platform to be the best of themselves, then how will you be productive?
So one of the things that I've found personally in relating with, I call them my colleagues. So, is I found that, every now and again, I just have non-work conversations. So, in fact, the very first time I did it, it came as it was like a shock. Everybody was like, what's going on? But I just had, because over time, maybe I've asked some information, your parents, your siblings, blah, blah, blah. So I just then ask personal, direct questions, how is your sister? I know she's in school. You guys lost your mom. How is she feeling? How is she handling? You are not in the country. And I'm just giving real life examples of some of the things that have happened and just having those conversations. And I could tell that, you could literally see some of their shoulders. It was like a weight just dropped because they're like, oh, wow. So somebody sees me aside from just having to fulfill a role. So that was one of the ways that, because I realized that, sometimes we could ask for feedback. But then this feedback comes and then it's like it's just for information purposes. It's just to be able to say we gather data and nothing actually happens after that. So having those kind of conversations, non-work conversations, was one of the ways that I found was really engaging for the employees, because then after that,
what they're then able to do is if they're having challenges in work, if they're having challenges outside of work, it's easy for them to then come and say, this is what is going on. How can we help? What can we do? Or can I take this? Or can I do this? And so that conversation is then easier to have because there's been, because I have then initiated conversations that have been non-work related.
The conference provided a vital platform to explore how aligning employees' mental, emotional, and physical well-being with organizational roles can unlock untapped profitability, productivity, long-term competitiveness in order to make the employees and Nigerian businesses stay connected and ready to future-proof their workforce. Some of the speakers and attendees present also shared key insights gained from the conference and thoughts on how to improve the well-being and engagement of the employees.
An enhanced leadership mindset, really focused on driving the right level or an increasing level of employee engagement in order to boost profitability.
I learned a lot. And you're from BusinessDay, right?
Yes.
I hope you're going to keep doing this.
Okay.
Please do.
Okay. So
It was very insightful. It was very insightful. I saw different angles to things that you can do. You need to see my phone. I'm very electronic. I don't carry the book. So my notes for today alone, I've taken down a lot of tips, things we can improve on because nobody's perfect. So it was very insightful. I'm walking out of here with a lot of motivation. I have 5 people in my team. Everybody's busy. I had to pull someone out and say, please come here. You just come and listen to what is happening here. And she got here on time and she's going to do a presentation to the wider team on Friday. And Friday is when we have our own departmental meeting. So it was very insightful. Thank you very much, BusinessDay. Please keep doing it.
Yeah, it's been an interesting conference. Had great panel speakers, really great panelists. We do a very fantastic job at Blue Ball Financials today, but what I've heard from a lot of other people shows that there's still some more great work we can do, right, in terms of engagement, in terms of aligning employee welfare with productivity and translating that.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Market Brief. It's Monday, May 12, 2025, and I'm David Olujimi. Before we take a quick dive into the Nigerian Stock Exchange, there's some news that just hit the timeline, that hit the world yesterday or while we were sleeping. The US and China have come to an agreement. They have announced that they have reached an agreement, and this is broadly affecting the global equities market. Let's take a quick dive into the Nigerian Stock Exchange for the week ending May 9. During that week, the NGX all-share index rallied by 2.54%, essentially extending some of the gains we saw made in the market during the previous week. Year to date, the gains now stand at 5.64%. Months to date, we are seeing the NGX at 2.77% months to date. Basically, in the month of May, we've seen the NGX gain that amount. During the week, we saw robust activity with about 2.645 billion shares. What about 77 billion traded? It was a slight uptick from the previous week where about 75 billion worth of shares were traded. And at the end of that last week, market capitalization now sits at 68.339 figures. However, let's take a look at some of Friday's figures. On Friday, we saw the NGX, we saw about 459 million shares exchange hands. In 459 million shares, that worth about 11 billion naira exchange hands in a number of deals. After 4 consecutive days of a bullish surge, with the all-share index went down slightly by 0.46% to 108,733.40. Our top movers during the day during the day, we saw ABC Transport with a 10% gain. Sterling Bank went up with another 10% gain. Chelarams 9.94% gain. Academy Press 9.92% gain, and Red Star Express 9.90% gain. Our top losers, basically what we saw was that penny stocks took the day, and amongst our losers, Transcorp Power led the day with 9.98%, and we saw some of our stocks, again insurance stocks, taking the hit, and we saw Howden McCall. All we've seen, when you look at the trend, you see just a bit of profit taking happening in the market on Friday. Howden McCall went down by 9.57%. Meyer PLC, the paint maker, went down by 9.09%. Regency Alliance went down by 6.78%, and Suno Assurances again 6.73%. This year we've seen Suno Assurances go down by almost 60%, making it one of the top losers after ending up last year as the second highest gainer in the exchange. That day, still on the same day on Friday, Tantalizer was the most traded share with 104 million shares of Tantalizer traded. It was followed by GTCO with 51.3 million shares, Access Holding 45.2 million shares, Zenith Bank 21.8 million shares, and Sterling Bank 15.5 million shares. Just as we know it, if you are familiar with the market, one thing you must always understand is that banking stocks take the day in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Financial services sector are driving more than 70% of the liquidity in the market and the trade and activity in the market. Okay, let's look at our top weekly gainers for the week ending May 9, 2025. Multiverse Mining Corporation went up 57.48%. Academy Press went up 50.52%. Beta Glass. Last week was a week where Beta Glass was a stock to look out for because Beta Glass went up 46.31%. This year, Beta Glass has been up more than 105%. The Initiate PLC, a waste management company situated in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, 34.95%. The Initiate PLC has been a consistent gainer, and it's not far-fetched to see that some action is taking place on that stock. However, unlike other insurance companies, International Energies Insurance took the day with was also a top gainer during last week, 31.88%. The insurance company, which is now owned by Northern Badger, was quite a shocker last week, considering the bearish run that we've seen the entire insurance spectrum take over the course of 2025, over the course of this entire year. Top weekly losers: Abe Mortgage Bank down by 15.66%, Meyer down by 13.51%, Veritas Capital down by 10.81%, VFD Group down by 10.61%, and Transcorp Power down by 9.98%. When you look at all these 5 stocks, you discover that they have been some of the top performers during the year, and essentially we've been seeing quite a bit of profit taking. We saw Abe Mortgage Bank do 57% some 2 weeks ago, but now they are down by, we've seen that there's been a bit of profit taking on that stock. The same goes for VFD Group, where we saw a bonus share issuance caused the share price to be recalibrated. They've been up a lot this year, but obviously shareholders are beginning to look at it, and short-term traders are beginning to take positions, and there's been some form of market correction on those shares. Looking at over the week, some of our sectoral performance breakdown, all these major sectors we will track in the NGX all went up. It was essentially last week was a bullish week for the exchange, especially after some of the worldwide shakedowns that have seen investors now trickle into emerging markets such as Nigeria. We saw the banking index, NGX banking index, up 3.09%. The insurance index up 0.99%. Consumer goods index was up by 5.41%. Consumer goods have been on the go. Consumer goods have been they have been up and up. It's been like a bullish surge for consumer goods, especially with the release of Q1 figures. After the release of Q1 figures, we've seen a situation where they've all bounced back to profitability. Just a few companies like Dangote Sugar have been the ones that have lagged behind. Essentially, all the consumer goods companies listed on the exchange have all bounced back to profitability, putting them in a favorable condition or putting them in favorable positions with equities investors. The oil and gas index was also up by 3.98%. Essentially, investors took positions on earnings, despite the fact that we saw some shakedowns in global oil prices last week. Despite the fact that we saw some shakedown in global oil prices, we saw the oil and gas index still up by 3.98%. This gain was basically driven by Aradel and Owando. After weeks and weeks of a downward trend, I think investors, market movers began to take position in these shares, especially Owando that appreciated by about 12% last week. Industrial goods also saw some bit of upward action with a 1.09% gain in the NGX Industrial Goods Index. Now let's move on to the United States. On Friday, we saw Dow Jones down by 0.29%. The S&P 500 was down by 0.07%. These are not significant downturns. These are not significant downsides. We saw Nasdaq also up by just a little 0.04%. However, after the announcement of the US-China trade deal, which came in very late yesterday, in our time, quite late, however, in their time, it came in the evening. The US government has announced this, the Chinese government has announced this. We are seeing futures trading because trading has not started yet. We've seen the S&P 500 futures up by 2.50%. Essentially, what we are seeing is that in the coming days, the S&P 500 could easily hit new figures. Going by what we're seeing, Nasdaq futures is up by 3.43%. So we're going to be seeing S&P 500 index jump by, and Nasdaq 100. It's been a rebound for some of the US tech names that have been under pressure this year, with stocks like Tesla especially. Tesla has been under a lot of pressure. The stock has been down by almost 40% this year. The same has gone for Google, that's Alphabet LLC. The same thing has happened for Meta. But what we are seeing now is that the United States government has agreed to cut the Chinese tariffs to 30%, and the Chinese government has agreed to cut the United States tariffs to 10%. Significant boost for commerce between these two countries. When the United States government came, when the US president came and announced some of those tariffs, it led to a shakedown in global logistics and global supply chains, which led to overall downturn in the equities market. Because of the news, we're already seeing yield on the US Treasury hit but already up to 4.43%, as we are seeing gold prices also tumble. Basically, without the market even being open, we're already noticing a trend of shift from safe havens like gold and treasuries into stocks. Basically, FTSE on Friday, the FTSE 100, which is the benchmark index for the London Stock Exchange, was up by 0.27%. The CAC 40 was also up by 0.64%. The DAX index was up by 0.27%. The DAX index basically tracks the Berlin Stock Exchange. And what this means, this was for Friday, but based on recent activity, based on recent news that has come out, we are going to be seeing an uptick in these three markets. In Asia, we saw some upliftment in the Nikkei 225, that is the Tokyo Stock Exchange. We saw upliftment 1.56%. In Hong Kong, it was up by 0.40% on Friday, and in Korea, down by 0.09%. We don't have data for early trading from today in the Chinese and the Asian market. But however, what we've been seeing is that softer tones in the US government's approach to trade. Last week, the US government entered into at least announced significant action when it comes to the trade deal with the UK. This week, today, they've announced a trade deal with China. So we've been seeing equities markets are beginning to digest some of this data, and we will be seeing these gains this week. We'll be seeing quite a lot more of these gains. In Nigeria, FX stability and improved dollar liquidity are helping some of our banking stocks. But with the news announced recently, we're probably going to be seeing oil prices go up, and our oil will probably shift away from that point of. There was a point of there was so much uncertainty about what was going on in the market because oil prices fell to below 60 and it became a full-blown conversation. But oil prices we're going to see oil prices quite go up, at least some upside based on some of the news we'll be seeing. While oil export revenue, while there may still be some swings here and there, we're expecting some positive news in the equities market and also in the fixed income space over the next couple of days. Good morning and thank you for joining us on Morning Market Brief. I'm David Olujimi.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I will look at the cost of petrol. We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased. Nothing like service again. No. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking will spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
This conference is catered to addressing the housing deficit and helping us to seize some of the opportunities that we have present.
BusinessDay Media Limited held its annual property investment conference Pre-Invest on the 14th of March. The conference brought together stakeholders, investors, policymakers, and innovators to unlock Nigeria's $900 billion real estate market and address the opportunities, challenges, growth, and future of the industry. This year's edition is themed The Future of Real Estate, harnessing demographics, urbanization, and opportunities amid economic shift. BusinessDay's publisher, Frank Ibohun, delivered a notable welcome address, emphasizing that the real estate sector is no longer just evolving, but redefining the future of Nigeria's non-oil economy.
The real estate sector is not defined by just the data, the GDP data that we talk about or that we hear about. The real estate sector is more crucial, more vital than any data can suggest. Following a recent gross domestic product rebasing by the National Bureau of Statistics, your sector was adjudged to have surpassed the energy sector, the oil and gas sector, to become the third contributor to economic development in Nigeria.
According to PwC 2024 report, the real estate is now one of Africa's most dynamic sectors, with a market value projected to exceed $900 billion by 2030.
The influx of unqualified practitioners is a major challenge confronting the real estate industry within Nigeria, and especially in Lagos State. And this has negatively impacted the sector's credibility and growth. With Lagos State being a reflection of Nigeria's urbanization and also one of the fastest growing urban areas in the world economically, the increasing demand for residential, commercial, and industrial properties has given rise to fraudulent practices such as multiple allocations of the same property to different tenants, inflated rent prices, and substandard construction projects. These issues not only discourage investors, but also pose a serious threat to public trust and investor confidence as key elements of property investment in the sector. In Lagos State, we are committed to transforming the real estate industry. As we continue to regulate and professionalize the sector, I urge all stakeholders, investors, developers, and real estate professionals to advocate for ethical practices and also register with the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority to enhance regulation and credibility.
Hello, this is the big story here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. This is where we get to discuss key issues shaping our nation and our economy at large. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Today we're having discussions on how the country can tackle rising rural poverty. The latest World Bank April 2025 Poverty Equity Brief for Nigeria shows that the poverty rate among Nigeria's rural population has reached a frightening 75.5%. According to the Global Financial Institution, Nigerian rural dwellers are overwhelmingly bearing the brunt of economic stagnation, inflation, and structural challenges that have characterized the country's growth trajectory in recent years. Data derived from Nigeria's most recent nationally representative surveys shows that 41.3% of the urban population lives below the poverty line, while the figure for rural Nigeria is almost double. Well, to discuss this and so much more, we're being joined by Dr. Oluyemi Adeosun, BusinessDay Chief Economist. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Same here.
Let me start by asking you, I always like to find out how concerning the situation is to you. So how concerning is this rural poverty level to you, and how did we get to this alarming state?
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. First and foremost, the sheer magnitude, 75.5%, is alarming, but also importantly, the number of Nigerians who are living in the rural settings are large. There are many. Quite a number of Nigerians live in these rural communities, and we cannot afford a situation where more of them will want to drift to the city, so that they can get some of the benefits. Now, they are affected by quite a number of factors. Many of these rural dwellers are working around agrarian functions, farming, agriculture, and so on and so forth. And you will realize that most of these farming techniques they are using are not really modernized. They are also affected by the fact that there is poor infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, road, electricity, storage, you will be shocked, amazed at the quantum of farm produce that go to waste. They're also plagued by insecurity from farm elder clashes, banditry, kidnapping, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of challenges, financing, fertilizer, so many things that anything that can go wrong, so to speak, is not going well right now with people living in the rural society. And I would like to end by saying that it is not just a function of this current administration. I like people to know that this is a cumulation of government over the years, underfunding, poor policy implementation, and also poor project management. Thank you.
Right. And what will you say are some of the key structural and systemic factors that driving and sustaining this poverty that we're experiencing in Nigeria's rural areas?
I alluded to a few already. Poor agricultural modernization. You cannot continue to do the same thing the same way. If you check some countries, the ratio of farmers to the population is low, yet their output and productivity. So how can we ensure we get increased output from our farmers? This is very, very, very critical. I also mentioned the fact that access to funding, finance for these farmers, and some of these issues are not far-fetched. The typical bank will want to ensure they are profitable from the onset. So what's the incentive or motivation for a bank to set up in the rural area? And once formal banking systems are not available to these people, how do they become financially inclusive? How do they access loans to buy some of this farm equipment and so on and so forth? So there are quite a number of situations and issues surrounding this issue.
And what we see is that every year the government, both at the federal and state level, they present budgets that tackle myriad of development issues, which include poverty. With the World Bank report that we're seeing now, how have this desired impact? How come we're not seeing them being felt? I mean, budgets, are they mere yearly rituals without any commitment?
Okay, first and foremost, we need to critically delve into the budget. By that I mean, can we really do an analysis? What's the ratio of the budget that goes to the urban areas vis-a-vis the proportion of the budget that goes to the rural area? That's one. Two, even what is going to the rural areas today, if you check it out critically, you'll be surprised that a lot of it goes to overheads. For example, recurrent salaries and so on and so forth. So how much of the revenue going to the rural setting goes for developmental agents, programs and events? Then what now goes to these developmental programs, initiatives and projects? Project monitoring and evaluation. Do we get full value for our money? Then do we even consult and engage with the rural dwellers to identify that the project we are carrying on is what they need? There are certain projects, for example, that if you touch it, they will have spiral effect, cumulative effect on other areas. So there is quite a number of things. Somebody can sit somewhere in Abuja and say they need something in Ilesha. Do they really need it? So we need to ensure that there is a holistic review, that we carry along all these people. And let me quickly say here, and this is one of the reasons why we need the local governments. They are the closest to the rural communities. And of course, we also need the state government. So we need to hold all tiers of government accountable simultaneously.
Right. We've spoken about the World Bank and all of that. Now, beyond national budgets, there have been some global, or should I say international interventions in the form of donor funds to aid rural development programs in addressing poverty. How impactful have this been, and where do you think that they fall short?
So I will say mixed results, because I can't say they've not been impactful, and I cannot also say they've been completely successful.
Okay.
So I'll give one or two examples. I don't know if you remember Fadama. They provided
that was a while ago, yes.
A while ago, so I have to go way back. They provided a lot of support, for example, farm cooperatives, irrigation, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the key issues surrounding donor-funded projects, a few things. One, sustainability. What happens after the project ends? Two, even when the project is ongoing, how much of integration do we have with the local communities? Did we get their buy-in? so that they are immersed into the project. So this is also very key. Again, with due respect, most donors have their own agenda. And I'm saying this very respectfully. Except you are sure that their agenda aligns completely with the agenda of the nation and then the local community. Sometimes the federal agenda may not be the agenda of the rural citizenry. And that's why we need to ensure we get alignment, buy-in. Then sustainability is key. So the needs assessment must be thorough and be holistic. And then we get them involved so that even when we run short of funds from the donor, the project life cycle can continue. So sustainability is very key here.
And what barriers do rural communities face in accessing essential services like education, healthcare, financial support, and what better policies can address this?
So first and foremost, let me say that the fundamental barrier is people-centric. What do I mean? And you'll see that you mentioned 3 critical areas. For example, education, you mentioned health, these have to do with people. Now, when I talk about people, what's the quality of education that is available and accessible to the people in the rural community? And when I say what's the quality, infrastructure. I'm sure you have seen some pictures of people on the floor, no roof, yes, classrooms.
Absolutely.
That's one, infrastructure. 2, what's the quality of manpower? Way back when we served, some corpers who were posted to the rural community were trying their best to redeploy to the urban areas. So, and same applies to health centers. So how many medical doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, pharmacists want to actually stay in the rural community and provide quality service? Next, the cost of this. And what you end up seeing is the rural people end up subscribing to traditional health services and so on. So there are a lot of things around people development, enlightenment, education, awareness. So we need to do a lot of things to incentivize bringing the right professionals to be comfortable working in rural communities, dwelling there and providing service. For me, this is very key. Another thing is financial inclusion. So we must find a way to also incentivize. So some of the things we do, all this conditional cash transfer, can we tie it to something productive? Can we say, if you go to school, then your parents get this grant, but we ensure that you go to school every day, so that it's not just we give you money for eating alone. Then all those, they had some good initiatives. For example, these projects where people are getting free lunch. You will be shocked at how that free lunch increased school enrollment. Also attached to this, especially for women, you see situation where women, because of early marriage, cultural practices, end up dropping out from school. So it's a mirage of challenges, and we have to support and provide solutions holistically.
Right, and speaking of solutions, let's bring it to the grassroots. Do you know of any successful grassroots or community-driven models that we could actually scale up to reduce this rural poverty we're talking about?
So, first and foremost, I would like to say that anything that is homegrown, when I say homegrown, I mean initiated in conjunction with the community. It typically always works. And I'll give you, let's go way back. I remember way back then, we had what we call farm settlement schemes. And in each of these farm settlement schemes, for example, in Western region, there was a cluster of land allocated to farmers, supported with machinery, equipment, tractors, then agri-extension agencies, and there were like housing estates, health centers. So it was like an integrated settlement. Then things like fertilizers were all provided for them. So any initiative that is homegrown, well conceptualized, and then you develop it with the rural community. Why I'm hammering on this is because of sustainability, so that you can also get funding, either national, state. And another thing I would like to also say is the fact that we need integration. When I say integration, sometimes you see government agencies, whether federal or state, working in silos. So you may be doing around the same thing, but if you synchronize your thought processes, your projects, you'll be able to cover more mileage, and you'll be able to deliver more value for the citizens.
And also, what ways do you think that gender, youth dynamics, and all of that, how do you think that they shape the experience of poverty in rural Nigeria?
So that's a very interesting question.
I know.
Let's take the gender. You will be surprised that a significant portion of our farmers are actually women.
Oh wow.
A significant. So let's just so that you get the proportion, and I'm just making this number up. So assume we have 50 to 60% women as farmers. Guess what? The land ownership, less than 10% of women own land. Just oppose that. So the actual farm hand, 50 to 60% women, but the actual land ownership, less than 10% women. What happens is that because you don't have ownership, you'll be restricted from getting access to credit, because the land, for example, could have been your collateral. So you need things like like land reforms. You also need things like inheritance reforms, so that more women who are actually the practical farmers will have a say. Now, if you are a woman and you know that you are farming on a plot that doesn't belong to you, which means you will do the work, a man will take the money or the chunk of the money. So you can see the dichotomy, and you can see that is a form of not incentivizing the women to work hard enough. Let's quickly move to the area of the youth. Now, who are the people most prone to migration? It's youth. You are 18, you are 20, you are 24. What happens is that if you visit your family members in the city, you probably won't come back again. What happens is you now have able-bodied boys, men, and women leave farming, agriculture, go to the city for menial jobs, and it's disruptive. It's quite disruptive. You put more pressure on the urban life, so you exchange rural poverty for urban ghetto poverty. Thank you.
You called it urban. So when you say urban ghetto poverty, what do you mean by that?
So, of course, even though today we are focusing on the rural poverty, which is 75.5%, but even in the insights you shared while you introduced this, we had over 40% urban poverty. So when people typically attempt to escape from rural poverty, chances are they will just exchange the poverty for urban ghetto. Of course, over time, some of them will now move from urban poverty and attempt to cross over to the middle class.
And, we did speak about, all of the youth that keep migrating and coming to the city.
Yeah.
How do we, in this case, then keep them in the rural areas?
So, of course, there's freedom of movement, generally speaking. So what we can do, you can't legislate it. You need to provide infrastructure. By way of infrastructure, physical infrastructure, you need to provide manpower, good healthcare, good teachers, and then we need to improve on governance. Let all our local government, councillors, let them begin to deliver even more. So once people have access to, most people are not asking for much. If you've ever lived in the village and lived in the city, a part of you will tell you that the quality of life in the village may actually be better than the city, because there are urban problems, pollution, noise, and so on and so forth. Traffic
yes.
And depression, isolation.
High cost of living.
High cost of living. But it's just that some of these things now transfer back to the village, because certain things they use in the village too are gotten from the city. But you have access to a general all-round better healthcare and lifestyle. We just need to project it.
We have to go now, but just before you leave, do you have any final thoughts on this conversation?
I would just like to say that whether we agree or not with the World Bank, it doesn't matter. What matters is let's make concerted efforts to enrich the life of our citizens, both in the village, rural setting, and urban centers. After all, we are all Nigerians.
We are all Nigerians indeed. Thank you very much, Dr. Adeosun, for sharing your insights on this conversation this morning. This has been The Big Story. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching BDTV. this conference is catered to addressing the housing deficit and helping us to seize some of the opportunities that we have present.
BusinessDay Media Limited held its annual property investment conference Pre-Invest on the 14th of March. The conference brought together stakeholders, investors, policymakers, and innovators to unlock Nigeria's $900 billion real estate market and address the opportunities, challenges, growth, and future of the industry. This year's edition is themed The Future of Real Estate, harnessing demographics, urbanization, and opportunities amid economic shift. BusinessDay's publisher, Frank Ibohun, delivered a notable welcome address, emphasizing that the real estate sector is no longer just evolving, but redefining the future of Nigeria's non-oil economy.
The real estate sector is not defined by just the data, the GDP data that we talk about or that we hear about. The real estate sector is more crucial, more vital than any data can suggest. Following a recent gross domestic product rebasing by the National Bureau of Statistics, your sector was adjudged to have surpassed the energy sector, the oil and gas sector, to become the third contributor to economic development in Nigeria.
According to PwC 2024 report, the real estate is now one of Africa's most dynamic sectors, with a market value projected to exceed $900 billion by 2030.
The influx of unqualified practitioners is a major challenge confronting the real estate industry within Nigeria and especially in Lagos State. And this has negatively impacted the sector's credibility and growth. With Lagos State being a reflection of Nigeria's urbanization and also one of the fastest growing urban areas in the world economically, the increasing demand for residential, commercial, and industrial properties has given rise to fraudulent practices such as multiple allocations of the same property to different tenants, inflated rent prices, and substandard construction projects. These issues not only discourage investors, but also pose a serious threat to public trust and investor confidence as key elements of property investment in the sector. In Lagos State, we are committed to transforming the real estate industry. As we continue to regulate and professionalize the sector, I urge all stakeholders, investors, developers, and real estate professionals to advocate for ethical practices and also register with the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority to enhance regulation and credibility, as well as foster an environment where real estate investments can thrive safely and sustainably.
The conference captured various solid panel sessions with reputable industry giants.
Government does not have lands anymore, and this has brought creative things. What is our JVs that we do? We partner with families who have family lands but don't have the means to develop it, and we share the apartments. When I say land is not available, I'm talking about vacant land. Lands are occupied, and we have a major regeneration agenda for Lagos State.
We also got a chance to speak to some of the speakers, and they shared their submissions.
One of the key issues with housing is just the cost. The cost of construction is high. The cost of financing is high. The interest rates from our financial institutions are high, and all that adds to the problem of affordability. So in order to resolve that problem, there needs to be policies in place to, number one, address the issue of high cost of building materials. So import substitution, local production and development of the value chain materials will bring down the cost.
Fortunately, in Nigeria, capturing data is, an ordeal, but that is the only thing that is going to actually allow us to understand where we're going as a nation, as an industry, as a market, and capturing that data, whether you're talking about the private sector and individually as real estate companies capturing data in a CRM, or the government capturing data from a survey perspective. Data is the only trend that we need to know about to be able to capture the opportunity that's currently wide open in the market.
99.9% of houses and properties that I see being built disobey the fundamental laws of building. There isn't the infrastructure or the manpower to regulate all these buildings. If I am going to build and invest my money in building, I will pay for the consultants. I will let them do their work and I will listen to them. But then maybe because I am educated and myself, I am a consultant, I cannot tell you the number of people who will not pay for consultancy. And I sit and I listen and I watch them. Most builders now, if you say to them, did you put in a damp-proof course? They don't even know what it means. Meanwhile, we have rising damp. We are a city that is, barely a foot above sea level. So the fault isn't the government. There's enough legislation with the government, and anybody who wants to do the right thing can do the right thing without waiting for government to come and enforce the right thing.
Construction is not an easy job. You have to be competent when you are doing it. If you don't have the competence, employ the competent hand, the project manager, the cost adjuster, the cost people, the country surveyors, the engineers. They must be properly in place. When they are in place, then you get your housing off ground quickly.
The conference was able to capture some of the major challenges that the real estate sector currently faces, with solutions suggested by the speakers present. Attendees also had opportunities to get answers to their questions. Since inception, the Business Day Property Investment Conference, PRINVEST, has become a crucial tool for insightful deliberations on the future of Nigerian real estate industry, and the organizers remain unrelenting in making sure that the conference continues to address the needs of the masses.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased. Nothing like service again, no. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, We have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, Business Day fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities. With millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria, Business Day is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, Business Day is your guide.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased. Nothing like service again. No. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this
Hello and welcome to the social listening segment here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. This is where we get to discuss and analyze some of the top trends making the rounds across social media. Of course, my name is Elizabeth Musa, and joining me in the studio this morning is Obidike Okafo himself, our very own in-house analyst, like I like to call him. Well, let's start off today with a conversation making the rounds on social media, where the Member of Parliament of the United Kingdom, Kemi Badenoch, has called on Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour government to adopt the Conservatives' proposed deportation bill as a measure to reduce immigration. In a video shared on her official account of X, Kemi Badenoch issued a stark warning about rising immigration levels, claiming that without urgent action, approximately 2 million immigrants could gain British citizenship by next year. Of course, that means she's against, all of these immigrants and whatnot. And, we're having a side conversation just before the show earlier in the morning, and someone was saying the fact that, maybe if, just a funny conversation, like that if Kemi Badenoch's parents would call her and say, you know what, can you just leave all of these people alone and let them do what they're doing? But I don't even think that's never going to be something that would happen in the first place.
So the fact is this: in Africa culture, you call, as in when a child is misbehaving, you call the parent. So we believe that she's misbehaving, and so we want to call the parents so that the parents will talk to her. Because people feel when you're a younger person and you're misbehaving, there are older people you listen to. So they believe that since Kemi has been on a wave about immigrants, immigration. But has somebody asked her, has she looked at herself? Is she white? She's black, and her name is Kemi, for crying out loud. So when she's talking with so much aggression, it baffles me. You can almost sense the virtual hate in her voice, and it doesn't make any sense because she's an immigrant. She migrated. Her parents. She was born in Lagos. She migrated to the UK. So why there's so much vile and vitriol in her voice when she's talking about immigration makes absolutely no sense at all. People should be allowed to travel to any part of the world that they want to. Fine, there should be control. But the way she's going about it, as if somebody offended her or something.
It's actually baffling. It's, how we say in just our language, Gen Z language and all of that, when you say that it's giving somebody that, you're eating from the cake and then you don't want other people to eat from the cake. That can be what it's looking like. But let's see what the reactions are like on social media, and then I'll come back to you on this conversation. Myriad of posts. The people have been making loads and loads of comments on this conversation on social media. But the conversation just goes on and on and on. Now that one is from Joe Boy 99. Joe Boy 99 says this woman's problems are the immigrants. Even the people that own the country are not against immigrants. Only if your documents are not complete or you are into fraud, that is when they will take action. She forgot that she was an immigrant before getting a passport. That's from Joe Boy. Olayemi says, it seems the only way to win elections in the United Kingdom is to prove that you're against immigration and immigrants. It's a good development though. If we Nigerians know we can't escape from Nigeria, we will take the development of our nation seriously. That's another angle. Let's see more reactions to this one on social media. Harvey says, this is a testament of now Nigerians don't want their fellow Nigerians to succeed. All of this should even be coming up from a white man. Exactly what you were pointing out on that conversation. Back from the future, Legal Queen says, I like this lady so much. Nothing concern her with her skin or race. She fights for what's right and sticks to it. You guys can't destroy your own country with bad character and come and destroy the new home she has found. Right on, ma. Well,
I think she's just being sarcastic.
Angle. Yeah, I think because it can only be sarcasm. Well, that's an interesting angle. I like this comment. I like how balanced they are. The person
next year, that 2 million immigrants could automatically claim British citizenship. 2 million people. That's nearly twice the population of Birmingham. That's massive. Down. Back in February, we demanded Labour's that's not going to work. Here's what will work. Deport all foreign criminals. Mandatory age check.
BDTV Breakfast Show, and just before we went on the break, we were speaking on the conversations around Kemi Badenoch and will I say disdain towards immigrants, and then we're checking out some of the conversations on social media and the people who were chiming into the conversation, some of them of the opinion that she has no business whatsoever with race or color or whatever. She just stands for what it is that she believes in. The people that were saying, you know what, like, why are you even in the first place? Why are you, calling? It's like you've not looked at yourself to see that you're also one of us, and then you're saying that people should not, be immigrants and whatnot.
I think it's just a case of balancing things out. It's okay for people to migrate. Migration is part of life. But the thing is that she needs to understand something. If you're trying to be harsh so that you show that you're a strong conservative, then you're doing yourself bad, because at the end of the day, it's those same people that will, for a lack of a better word, that will betray you. It's unfortunate that I think they're using Kemi as for a lack of a better word, a scapegoat. She's the one that they put in front there. Some of them who believe in these things are hiding behind her and using her as their face,
advocate,
as their face and as an advocate. But at the end of the day, it's all going to. It's not a great thing for her. Her name is Kemi. She's an immigrant, just like the same immigrants she wants to keep out. So how does it even make sense? I'm not saying there shouldn't be rules. There should be rule and guidance for everything so that things will move smoothly. But it does not make any sense that, even the way she's saying it sounds as if she's angry with every immigrant. It's like her being angry with herself. It doesn't make any sense at all.
But in her defense, she's saying that if there's no urgent action taken, that approximately 2 million immigrants could gain British citizenship by next year. Yes, we agree with the fact that Kemi is also an immigrant herself, and then why she's speaking against immigrants. But there's also the good side of this conversation for me, which is where I always like to look at. Earlier when we were reviewing the paper, we were talking about the brain drain, the healthcare sector. Our 160,000 healthcare professionals have left the shores of the country within, is it 2 years?
3 years.
Or 5 years? And that for me is crazy, because when you go to hospitals, you can feel the impact of how some of the best hands have left the shores of the country. Some of your best doctors. So many times, my hospital is Lagoon Hospital, and so many times I go, I'm speaking to a very good doctor, and I say to myself, I hope I would see you here by next. And then the doctor will say to me, do you plan to be sick? I'm like, it's not that I plan to be sick, but honestly, just in case, I hope I'll see you here. I remember when I had the surgery and it was successful, and I said to the doctor, I hope you will remain in this country. He said, well, Elizabeth, fingers crossed on that, because he understood where I was coming from. But he said to me, like, if you don't see me in next year or so, just know that it is what it is. Don't worry, you see someone else. But it's just like the good people are leaving.
So the point is this: even this new immigration law doesn't mean that they won't allow immigrants to come. They will still allow professional immigrants like doctors to come. So the bottom line is, it still doesn't really change much. The only thing is, being harsher will only make people find other ways. One thing I've learned over time about this whole immigration thing is, no matter how hard you go on immigration, people will always find a way. Nigerians will always find a way. So the bottom line is this. I think, I'm not saying don't be strict on how people come to your country, because it's important. Already in the UK, illegal immigrants are on a high when you check the statistics. But the bottom line is we still need to look at things from a good perspective. I think for me, she's trying to impress the conservatives. She's trying to impress them. All this thing she's doing is just for show.
I see what you're
whether you agree or not, Kemi, that Nigerian blood, it did, as in she has the Nigerian blood, and that Nigerian blood is what is working. She's trying to please the conservatives. She's trying to, impress them. I'm hoping that her impression is impressing.
Well, I really don't know. I mean, I'm not someone that makes assumptions. I don't know if she's trying to impress them. I'm not in her mind. I'm not in her heart. I don't know about that. All I know is, on my own part, if this is what will help us to develop in our country, if this is what will help us to, just push better, because there's so many things, there's so many areas where like I said, I'm talking about all of the people that are leaving. If we can just work on development, if the government can invest more in so many of the sectors that need to be invested in, maybe we will not find more people leaving.
Can I tell you something?
Tell me.
People will still leave. Even if UK say nobody should enter our country again, people will still leave. People will find other alternatives.
People don't mind going to Ghana.
People don't mind even going to Ivory Coast or Rwanda or something. And now that
Rwanda is
and now that Rwanda has, if once you have a passport and you're from Africa, you can come. The bottom line is, even if UK close their borders down, even if Kemi gets her way, people will still leave Nigeria. It's not going to stop that, because things need to change in this country for people to stay. And it starts from us. But
and that's where I am actually.
But the question is, how many people want to stay and start fixing things? People will prefer to run away and go and live a better life somewhere else.
There are patriots like myself that want to stay and just make Nigeria better. And we hope that Nigeria will be better in our in our lifetime. We always pray for the best,
because they keep saying deport all foreign criminals. How would they know who the criminals are? And they're deporting them. They don't be deporting people left, right, and center. Unfortunately, even innocent non-criminals will be deported to our district.
Oh, right. Let's move on to other conversation today. The poultry farmers in Nigeria have raised their alarm over a sharp decline in egg sales, attributing this downturn to economic hardship and dwindling purchasing power among citizens. According to the farmers, egg sales have dropped significantly since the removal of fuel subsidy, lamenting that prices of poultry feeds have also gone up and are impacting on egg production. Now, this also brings back the conversation we're having. Now the conversation now is about the decline of egg sales, which is as a result of economic hardship, dwindling purchasing power among citizens. I mean, eggs, as at when I was in my teenage years, eggs were buying them at 30 naira in my lifetime. Eggs were 30 naira. Sometimes later I moved to 50, but I remember it clearly at 30 naira. I can't believe now that one egg is 250 naira. That just shows, and this within how many years. You would think that, yes, inflation must occur, but you would think that the highest I would have thought that egg will become, worst case scenario, maybe about 70 to 100 naira. Or did you think it would be like, that's the highest I would have thought, like based on the amount we were buying those days when we want to, in my house, if my dad drops money, when he drops the feeding money, when he goes to work and drops money for us, and it's just like 1,000 naira, it's enough to feed the family. Just buy eggs, you buy and bread, a loaf of bread. But how much is a loaf of bread now? A loaf of bread is even more than 1,000 naira.
It's more than 1,000.
So what are we saying? It's actually a sorry situation. But let's see some of the reactions on social media to this conversation. Let's see some of the conversations that people are having. King David Forex says, I wouldn't advise anyone to venture into poultry business. It's a risky business everywhere in the world. Some layers will keep eating without laying for weeks. That one is another interesting angle. Abeke Michael says, a crate of egg is 6,500 naira today. A lot of people can't even afford 6,500 for a pot of soup these days. So eggs are the last thing on their mind. I remember buying a crate of eggs for 650 naira in President GJ's tenure. How do we reverse this ugly situation? And then we have more reactions on social media. Joe says it's normal. Once prices surge unexpectedly, demand reduces, and then people adjust to the fact that they can reduce consumption or get an alternative product. So when prices decline, there's little or no change in demand. The same thing happened to, he's talking about noodles as well. The same thing happened. Adegbola says, I think these people are voicing out for the wrong reasons. It wouldn't be about the declining sales, but instead the cost of feeding and maintaining their layers instead. Reduce the price of eggs and see the sales go back up. On this egg conversation, what are your thoughts very briefly?
My thoughts on the egg conversation, eggs should, I just say welcome to the club, because apart from eggs, a lot of prices of food generally has gone up, and there are a lot of food prices that have escalated from rice to beans. Just mention anything. So egg has just joined the line of all the food that have gone up, because food inflation is mad. That's all I can say. And the bottom line is, people, like she said, last year, ironically, before about last year, before this whole, I think last year, last 2 years, crate of egg was like 2,000 and something. Now it's like 6,000 and something, and that's a jump. And my worry is that the price of eggs might still going up, might still creep up like the rest. And egg now, when we are young, when we are very young, they tell you egg is rich people. If you go to the village, they tell you just rich people that eat egg, because egg is not for poor. Now we've gone back to that place where it's only rich people that eat eggs. That's where we're heading to now. Only rich people eat egg. There was a time it was like that. Egg is sacred. It's a sacred meal. It's not everybody that eats egg.
Really?
You have to reach a certain level before you can eat an egg. It was like that, like some years back, and at this rate, that's where we're heading to.
Wow, that's all I can say. Just wow. Thank you so much, Obidike Okafor, for your time this morning on the social listening segment. That's where we draw the curtain today. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching BDTV.
As armed conflicts intensify all over the world, we see a surge in defense spending and organized crime becoming increasingly sophisticated, now revealing a critical but overlooked threat. Corruption is enabling weapons to fall into the wrong hands on a global scale. More bribery and diverted funds enriching crooked government actors and agents, and weak controls enabling fraud. Just in, US and China agreed on a 90-day pause on tariff increases and to lower tariffs by 115%. US lowers tariffs on China from 145% to a base of 10% plus a 20% fentanyl levy. Also, a mechanism to continue discussions on trade relations was agreed as both countries reduce their tariffs. Hello and welcome to Global Business Insights, where we look closer at headlines moving markets to equip viewers with perspectives to navigate this business environment. A new report by Transparency International Defense and Security and Transparency International US, based on over 400 documented cases of diversion across 70 countries, shows how corruption, including bribery, embezzlement, and abuse of authority, is serving as a key enabler of illicit arms flows. Entitled Under the Radar: Corruption's Role in Fueling Arms Diversion, the report says corruption is thriving in a new environment with significantly higher spend on defense and is also consistently driving illicit weapons flows. which further undermines peace and fuels more instability. Dr. Francesca Grandi, head of advocacy at Transparency International Defense and Security, warns that as demand for arms imports grows amid increasing global insecurity, vast amounts of weapons are being diverted. Also, a stark reminder of what happens when governments lose sight of corruption risks in the name of national security, adding that there are practical and effective tools for arms exporting countries that they can use to strengthen integrity in their export control systems. There's also need for more conversations globally about sharing corruption-related information to prevent arms and funds diversion. Key findings in the report that came out last week include widespread bribery and abuse of authority. Also, at each stage of a weapons value chain and life cycle, there are more opportunities for diversions. The active use and storage stage had the most corruption-fueled diversion cases, followed by the disposal, international funds transfer, and production stages. Also worrisome is that in more than 200 cases, military or security personnel reportedly colluded with illicit actors such as agents, insurgents, or terrorists. Are there solutions? According to the report, countries need to implement new policies and guidelines that incorporate targeted risk assessment questions that assess often overlooked defense and security institutional controls. Also, there should be more international collaboration on corruption in arms transfers by sharing information on corruption risks involving arms transfers within the Arms Trade Treaty, that's ATT framework, and other multilateral treaties for deeper discussions on this topic. Adding that research to curb corruption-fueled arms diversion, including funding studies on related issues and efforts to strengthen the integrity of defense and security institutions, should be encouraged. My take on this study is that Africa and third world economies with weaker institutional controls are particularly vulnerable given the high defense budgets relative to total spend and much opacity thriving under the excuse of protecting national security. The rise in insecurity in places like Nigeria can be traced to illicit diversions, requiring a serious revamp of controls that can only happen if we do get a serious study on the weapons life cycle immediately commissioned to identify and recommend immediate actions to plug the control loopholes. Transparency International can be involved in identifying remedial actions and introducing basic measures like strictly enforced declaration of assets for actors involved in administration of defense budgets, and independent spot checks by experienced compliance auditors will also help. As Europe, US, Germany, and the UK splurge on defense spend, Africa should be concerned of ammunitions also illicitly diverted to black markets that end up in the hand of bad actors, fueling instability in the continent. Meanwhile, Nigeria's National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, has said building strong institutions and attitudinal change on the part of Nigerians are crucial to win the anti-graft war in the country. He disclosed this over the weekend while delivering a lecture on corruption and national security impacts and consequences at the Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwe, Ogun State, Nigeria. Represented by the Director General of the Department of State Services, Mr. Oluwatosin Ajayi, the former anti-corruption SAR EFCC chairman said corruption had undermined the fabric of the state's legitimacy, weakened institutions, and diverted critical resources meant to develop the country. Now to other global business stories. In the UK, the Home Secretary has outlined a fundamental shift in the country's immigration system. Yvette Cooper has promised to cut 50,000 lower-skilled visas this year, But some industries, such as construction, will still be able to recruit from abroad during a transition period, but others will have to train people in Britain. Still in the UK, the number of UK entrepreneurs voluntarily shutting down viable businesses has hit the highest rate since the pandemic, with advisors blaming rises to tax rates for the jump in liquidations. Voluntary closures, known as members' voluntary liquidations, reached 12,602 in the 2024-2025 period, the second highest on record, after the 14,929 liquidations that took place in 2020 to 2021 during the height of the pandemic. The total number of all liquidations in 2024 to 2025 also rose to 36,807. Trade talks between America and China were held in Switzerland over the weekend, with Scott Bessent, U.S. Treasury Secretary, and Haley Feng, Chinese Premier, leading negotiations. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that U.S.-China trade talks in Geneva over the weekend were productive, also promising to give more details in a complete briefing later today. Meanwhile, over the weekend, U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick also reiterated comments that the 10% tariff rate will likely be the floor for trade deals, with the tariff rate much higher for some countries. Still in the U.S., we do get more details, more data on April U.S. inflation. CPI retail sales also comes out this week, shedding more clues. All three major indexes ended last week slightly in the red as trade volatility and uncertainty continues to weigh on sentiment. Markets are optimistic that we could get some measure of de-escalation in China-US trade tensions after the weekend talks. It can't get any worse as markets await an update on the narrative. In Europe, on Wednesday, we get Germany April inflation data. On Thursday, Eurozone Q1 GDP estimate and employment figures. UK first quarter GDP estimate also comes out on Thursday, while on Friday, we get Germany first quarter labor market figures. Italy also, April CPI inflation rate data comes out on Friday. Other major data and business events include Japan preliminary first quarter GDP print, the 15th annual US-China Business Conference hosted by the US Chamber of Commerce also begins in Washington. It will run till Wednesday. Still in the US, Trump is on his first major trip this week in Saudi Arabia and Middle East Gulf states. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have already pledged $2 trillion worth of US investments. Major US players like Disney are also doing major deals. For example, a park and resort is going to be set up in Abu Dhabi, and BlackRock announced it would partner with Abu Dhabi conglomerate IHC in the reinsurance space. Analysts see more wins in investments and possible collaboration in dousing geopolitical tensions in the region. After a Saudi-US investment forum in Riyadh, Trump will visit Qatar and the UAE with many bilateral meetings planned. And in China, more deflationary pressures driven by falling demand as the PPI producer price index dropped 2.7% in April year-on-year, worse than a 2.5% in March, still less than forecasts for a 2.8% fall. Analysts are pointing out that China still faces persistent deflationary pressures, and as exports likely weaken, the pressures may continue to rise. Saudi Aramco's Q1 net income came in at $26 billion, down from $27.3 billion for the same period last year, also slightly above analyst expectations of $25.3 billion. The numbers signal continuing strain for the oil giant's balance sheet as crude prices show little sign of recovering. Aramco also said in March it would be slashing its performance-linked windfall dividend payout for Q4 2024 to $200 million, down from $10.2 billion the previous quarter. That's down by $10 billion. That's a huge hit for the Saudi government. Still on global trade, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba reiterated on Sunday that they are aiming for the elimination of all tariffs in trade negotiations with the United States. Somewhat optimistic there. Ishiba said that discussions have gradually come together and that Tokyo's relationship with the US and Trump is surprisingly good. Egypt's annual urban consumer price inflation inched higher to 13.9% in April from 13.6% in March. That matches analyst expectations. Month-on-month inflation was 1.5% higher at the end of April than at the end of March. On Thursday, May 15, we could be getting the Nigeria April Consumer Price Index data. Remember, the March 2025 CPI inched up with a headline inflation rate of 24.23%. Analysts are expecting inflation in the country to be stabilizing. Chinese battery manufacturer CATL is raising at least $4 billion in its Hong Kong listing, according to its prospectus filed today. The listing could be the largest so far in 2025. CATL shares in Shenzhen Exchange rose 3.6% after the announcement. In the UK, the government is set to announce that migrants will need to spend a decade in the country before applying to settle unless they can prove lasting contribution to the society. The proposal to be unveiled today ends automatic settlement after 5 years and is part of a sweeping set of changes tightening immigration rules. Eyebrows were raised as it was reported that the U.S. administration will accept a luxury Boeing aircraft from Qatar's royal family this week in what could be the most valuable gift ever received from a foreign government. This as Trump sets out on a visit to the region this week. Asia-Pacific markets were boosted by positive signals from the China-US trade talks. US futures also positive as markets cheered the talks. Also, we saw Indian stocks leading gains after a fragile ceasefire with Pakistan held over the weekend. But offsetting gains, shares of Asian pharmaceutical companies sank after the US president said he was ordering substantial cuts in US prescription drug costs. The order instructs the Department of Health to reduce payments for medications to the lowest price paid by other countries. Last week, he signed an order to reduce the time it takes to approve pharmaceutical plants in the country as part of new regulations to encourage domestic manufacturing. Well, that's it on this edition of Global Business Insights. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, Business Day fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities. With millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria, Business Day is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, Business Day is your guide.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Odejabi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased. Nothing like service again. No. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, moving from my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
This is the Craftsmanship Chronicles series on Go Local, and on this episode, our focus is on wood. Trees in our hood. Kemi Michael here, your Yoruba named Akwa Ibom girl, welcoming you to Go Local. Now, Go Local is a podcast where we delve deeply and explore our nation's local uniqueness. Go local, buy local, and together we stay global. As we get into it, do also grab a cup of your favorite drink and a snack you would love to munch on. Oh, and make sure to make it a Nigerian snack. and get ready for an amazing ride. Since humans first realized they could make use of the materials they found in the vicinity, wood has been used and altered by us. People eventually learned about the special qualities of wood as they utilized it to satisfy a wide range of human requirements in peace and conflict, farming, and industry. Throughout history, trees and their wood have been essential to human existence. Since ancient times, wood has been one of our most vital building elements, used for construction as well as for production of tools, weapons, and furniture. Wood has historically played a key role in a lot of areas, and we Nigerians are part of that history. For this episode, I went to the Itamaga sawmill in the Ikorodu area of Lagos State, where I was able to speak with the General Secretary of the sawmill.
My name is Alhaji Kabiru Adegboyega Ibrahim, and this is Sogidowo sawmill Itamaga. So I'm the secretary to the association, General Secretary to the association, Sogidowo Plant Marketers Association of Nigeria.
Here in Nigeria and around the world, we have several uses of wood, such as agricultural purposes, for making musical instruments, for carving religious figurines, to create household furniture, for casket production, for fortification, as well as for source of energy supply, for example, our firewood and general logs for fireplaces. The wood production in Nigeria has specific process, and I will leave the explaining for the experts.
The woods normally come in 2x6. That is for roofing. So when they buy to it, like the ones you are looking there now, and it's 2x6. So when they bring it here, so if you want to saw it, you saw into 2x4, 2x3, 2x2. Those are the roofing planks. So we saw into to those sizes if you need it for roofing. So we take it from the shed down to the machine side. So we saw it there. If it is roofing, so it's all 2x4, 2x3, 2x2. So for facing board, that one is 1x12, 1x12x12. So now like the one that they are putting down there. So that is 1x12x12 for facing board. So after you roof, to facing board, so you cover breeze or whatever. So that's what they use that one for. So to seal the roof with the ceiling. So that's what they use it for.
Just like other industries, the wood industry sure has its challenges.
The challenges we usually face is the problem of this marine police or guard or whatever. You know, they are extorting us too much. You know Nigeria, that's Nigeria system, corruption. After we will have saw wood, process it, take the license, but they usually collect approval for wood, any wood cut. After that, if you pass through the water, if this marine police or whatever see you, they will still collect money as if you never collect any paper. So that's the Nigerian problem. So we face many challenges, yeah. At the same time, after they are coming from the river, the canoe bash, those the trucks that are coming into the sawmill, those are the policemen on the road trying to collect something, collect money. Those are the challenges we have.
Vegetation of Nigeria can be broadly classified into two types, that is, forest and savanna. Now, according to Statista in 2021, Nigeria exported forest products amounting to nearly 109.7 million US dollars. Most of these products were roundwood and sawnwood, amounting to roughly 52.4 million and 8.1 million US dollars, respectively. Other main exported forest products included paper and paperboard.
The good always come from Bayelsa State, Ondo State, Edo State, and from Oyo as well. But the one coming from Oyo, that's 1x12x12, and at times 2x12. But 2x6 wood for roofing normally come from Bayelsa, Edo State, Ondo State, and at the same time from Ogun State, Ogun Water side. The customer you have If it is an old customer, we must have a relationship. He can call you on phone and place order. So you call transport for him. When you've concluded with him for the quotation of the wood, so if you help him process it, you call transporter to transport it. So they will take it down to him. Or some do come inside to the market by themselves. So they will negotiate price, buy the wood, call a motor to pack it. Because the transporters they have their own association as well.
According to the United Nations, Nigeria has the highest deforestation rate in the world, with an estimated 3.7% of its forest lost every year.
That's what I'm saying, our problem here. And these forestry people that are supposed to be handled at Ministry of Agriculture. Wherever they cut timber, supposed to plant it back immediately. I know they don't do that. In a question of say 5 to 10 years now, there will be an issue of a wood scarcity. Those places that I'm talking the other time, that is do whatever. If you want to get wood now, it's very, very far to the upland, to the river itself, to the swamp itself, too far. That's why the wood is very hot now.
This is a call to action to the Department of Forestry, Federal Ministry of Environment. We in Nigeria are losing our trees and we need a solution to this loss. When one tree is cut down, I believe 10 more should be planted in its stead. Wood in Nigeria plays a very vital role, and leaving our forests to chance of the trees growing on their own accord is very risky. We need to be more intentional about our forests, and yes, also the trees in our hood. If you've ever wondered where you can get wood from, well, look no further. The sawmill at Itamaga area of Ikorodu in Lagos is right there for you. Now, if you happen to be a lover of DIYs, or you're a professional wood carver, an artist that uses wood for their craft, or one who uses wood in their everyday life, for example, writers, well, always remember, wood is good, but we need more trees in our hood. Plant a tree today, save our environment.
We live in a world of artificial intelligence. Things are a bit much easier now for us. It might be tough for us to go back to already established talents to track them. But with the new ones here, that's why you see our fintech and all of them flourishing. We just need to tap into that technology of AI, and it will help out. It's there already, you get, and it will help keep data. Data is the new currency. And once you have data, why some of the scouts abroad are a bit wary of touching some of our talents is because there's no data. You understand? So they're just going with your word. Yes, it's a talent, we see that, but we would like to see his data because it helps us also, and I'm talking as a European or someone from the abroad, as we like to say. It helps them to say, at this age to this age, these were some of the traits we saw. So that gives us an idea that if we put this through, we know what the outcome will look like. Because now we live in a world where you can determine outcomes. So for all of that to happen, I think we need to start taking our data very seriously. I don't know if people are willing to invest in that. That is another question again to ask. If we want to build talent, you have to be able to track this talent no matter where they are. Somebody must be able to be anywhere in Afghanistan, and you can get on an app and track whatever talent you want to track, and you can see the progress over time. So I think therein lies the dilemma we are in. Question is, are they ready to make that investment into that technology and see that they can mine data for athletes and talent, and you have this data, you can take them anywhere in the world. You have something to say, this is what their progression looks like. It's not much of a media thing per se. It's much of the administrators of the sports. You do not feel, oh, because we're a sport, media must come. You must understand that at the very core of sports is media. If your event is not being covered, you're just having fun. You are no different from somebody who's playing street football somewhere with his friends. You're just having fun. If you understand that as an administrator, now remember, the whole idea of the media is to document your events and your programs and all of the things you're doing. So there's an archive. Remember, you're not going to be there all your life. You're going to leave that seat. Someone else is going to step in. There's something they can work with. They can look at this and say, okay, this was what was done. This is the next level we need to take it into. So the issue is not media as in media. The issue is the owners of the sports. What's their drive? Where is their vision? Where are they headed? What they want to do? And that determines how they need to showcase it. So it's there. Media should be at every core of every sport. Not necessarily a football thing. Football is football, and it would always be football. There's some great football tournament that you don't even hear of because it's not covered. So every sport must take its media arm very seriously. Social media is such a powerful platform now that you as a sport needs to look at what makes us unique, what makes us stand out, and start to tell your own story. Tell your own story in your own unique way. You don't need to have some crazy camera, expensive. No, just have a good phone. Do you understand? Record it creatively. Edit. You can edit on your phone now. There are apps that can help you edit easily. Edit it and start. You don't need to buy social media space. You don't need to buy Instagram. You're not paying for it. You don't need to buy TikTok. You're not paying for it. And right there, start telling your story. We're seeing people who have gone viral and have had inputs, not even from different people, even from people you have no idea of. Just because they heard your story and loved your story. And they say, you know what, I want to partner with you on this one. Once you start doing that, you like it or not, mainstream media will actually, okay, we heard something is going on. They want to be part of it also. So it's all down to the sports itself. I'm quite excited. I accepted to come. I think Business Day is onto something. I don't know what it is, but in my spirit, I feel it. That I feel a sense of optimism. Because there's a dark, and everybody was saying, oh, every time we're always reporting the, negativity. Because there's a lot of it. There's just too much of it. Can't we just talk on one positivity? It's nice, but there's 200 negativities. So even if you want to push out it's just hard. I'm very positive. I always look at the cup half full. In fact, I don't look at the cup half full. I look at the fact that there's at least water in the cup to start with. You understand? Half full or not. So I feel very strongly that with what has been kickstarted here, it's the first time Business Day is, having this event. I'm sure some of the speakers who couldn't make it will see the outcome of this and regret that they didn't make it. And they will be the ones calling, when is the next one? This is early year. You can do it twice a year. You can even do it 3 times a year. Business Day, be ready for that. And people will want to be a part of this. And maybe by the time we tend to put our heads together, remember, 2 good heads, not 2 heads. 2 good heads. Always better than 1. By the time we put it together, we know the problem of our sports. We know what the problems are. We just need the testicular fortitude. For those who know, they know. The testicular fortitude to face it head on and deal with it decisively. It's simple. It's really, really simple. As long as we make up our mind that, nobody should be benefiting from the decadence and the despair of the ecosystem called sports. As long as we agree on that, and everybody takes it seriously, everybody will enjoy at the end of the day, because we're going to build a thriving ecosystem. And somebody can say in Harvard, let's take a look at Nigeria's sporting system. I mean, this was a system that was generating, $200, but today is a $200 billion, system. That's a joy to us. That brings pride to us. And everybody, even our unborn children, will benefit from it.
All right, so, what he said is that the government should actually answer, from sports business. There's sports, and then there's the business of sports. So the government should actually be actively involved in sports. But the business of sports, he thinks, that the government, should actually, hands off, from it. And being in government for like 6 years now, I also agree that, and that's why I said that the government has no business doing business. But the responsibility of the government is to ensure that they create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. And I believe so strongly that when they do this, we'll definitely reap better rewards from the engagement of sports, especially with the private entities, because with them there's more sustainability, with them there's more organization, with them there's more consistency in the running and the affairs of things. For a government, soldier goes, soldier comes. There's a new government, 4 years today. It could be another government entirely the next 4 years. This one that left, who was maybe very interested in sports, now actually the one coming might not be interested in sports. So all the investment, every investment that has been made, actually goes south. Just because of this new person doesn't have interest or feels that, oh, you know what, why are you talking about sports when we have agriculture, when we have agribusiness, when we have commerce and all, not knowing that all these things there is a place for each of these sectors,
Okay,
and
sir.
none is subservient over the other. Yeah, so intentionality. That's what we really need to do. Intentionality. If we want grassroots sports to actually grow, what do we need to do? We need to actually take sports and then also take the infrastructure of sports to the people. So that they have a platform that they can actually use to express this their talents. And how can there be expression of talent if you don't have like a warehouse that actually holds these people together, that actually help them to groom so that they can actually soar. So I feel that we should actually increase in the projects, the PPP project, the private public partnership projects in our various community. It's not what the government can do alone. So we have to bring in private investors, private entrepreneurs who will be able to see the need in that system, and the government will also ensure them the according security that will come with it, that when I put my money in this is the security I have. It's not that I put my money in so-so's administration, and by the time it comes to Tamedo's administration, my investment, they tell me that it's gone and it's nothing to so those are the things that I think that we should do. We should actually see it as a continuum, a business that should actually continue irrespective of which sheriff is in town.
So I think that everywhere in the world, is really the role of government to provide an enabling environment for businesses in all sectors to thrive. But because this event is about sports and the business of it, I think that to a large extent, the Lagos State government has been at the forefront, in facilitating the development of sports in Lagos. You could think of the accelerator program for, sportsmen in grassroots communities, and then some of the initiatives even discussed at the conference. But there's always room for improvement, and I can tell for a fact that under the leadership of the Honorable Commissioner, working under the governor, Governor Abajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, I can tell that there's still a lot more, to be done. And I know that there are a number of projects and initiatives in the pipeline to ensure that some of the issues raised here today about the challenges that still exist in how we move sports from just being a recreational activity to now, a business, entity that could, entail a multi-billion investment and all of that are already in the pipeline. And I just think that as we have more of these conversations and we do follow-up strategy sessions on how to implement these things so that they don't just end up as panel discussions or as keynote addresses, I think that it could only get better from here. Okay, so like I mentioned, so there's what is called the Lagos State, Sport Accelerator Program for young people in grassroots communities. And the initiative is domiciled in the Lagos State Sports Commission. And the whole idea is just to see how, to enable sportsmen and, sportswomen, especially those in their prime in secondary school and those who are just approaching tertiary institutions, on how to really understand the business side of sports. And it also provides, an opportunity for key players in the sports business value chain to also come together, ideate and implement the future of sport. So what I mean is that for organizations, who are facilitating programs like the Lagos City Marathon, I mean, they were here at the conference and they shared their views. There's room for so many more of them to come in and complement what government is doing. To be honest with you, government will not be able to solve all the problems, but it's up to government, to provide the enabling environment. So, and I know that also beyond that, there's what is called, the Lagos State Sports Academy, for young people, also in grassroots communities, so that, as we look at those who have approached stardom, those who have made it now, we have others who are in the pipeline too, who are also getting trained and, accessing resources and other initiatives that they need to benefit from to also emerge.
The starting point is that it's good to protect your IP. It's good to protect your image rights. When you protect your image rights, then it puts you in a better pedestal. You then find out that you're able to even make more money for yourself. This is an area where most sportsmen have not updated their minds to. And given the advent of data privacy in Nigeria today, it's one area that individual sportsmen should begin to look at and invest in a lot. So IP rights, IP protection, it's key, and it's a new way to go going forward. Well, the truth of the matter is that you can't really prevent contract breaches. What you can do is that you can actually have a robust contract that adequately protects your interests. And so my one advice is really for sportsmen and women to always carry, as you know that you need an agent, always carry a lawyer along and let that lawyer, review your contracts and make sure that those contracts adequately protect you. The things that you would not see as a layman, it's most likely that your lawyer will see those things and then let you know that X and Y clause should not be inserted in your contracts. But you find that most time because you don't want to pay a lawyer, you go it yourself. And it's when the chips are down, you then come running to a lawyer for protection. So government has no business in sports. The government's business is in creating infrastructure. So build stadia, create infrastructure, create opportunities, but don't be the ones managing or running sports. So all the clubs that the governments are running today, I think it's not proper, it's not nice. But you should allow pure professionals, pure businessmen, to come into the business space to make money from sports. Government should just create an enabling environment where all of these businessmen can thrive.
Sports is driven by media, storytelling. So what we are doing differently is that we are creating a distinct platform to sell the Nigerian sports, the Nigerian athletes to the world. So we are creating this platform to make sure that the small player in Ajegule, the small player in Jos can get the same visibility that any European player will get on the existing social media platform. And that's what Govia is here to achieve.
Okay.
On Govia, you can score your dream goal. So Govia means go through. So we have built Govia to help people score their dream goals.
All right.
I'm excited about this event because I'm able to meet key stakeholders that would help me achieve this dream. It's a burning desire in my heart, and it's one of the reasons why Govia came up as a sponsor for this. And we're happy that we did this with BusinessDay. We thank BusinessDay for this platform, and we look forward to more opportunities to talk more about the sports ecosystem and business opportunities.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Coming here today, just meeting like minds for me, that's my biggest takeaway personally. But also being able to hear the issues we're all facing, like us being sports professionals, we all face the same issues. So being able to tackle it in one space, I think was really helpful. And also stumbling blocks for me, I've been facing in my day to day, just being able to meet people who could help solve it. That's my biggest takeaway from today's conference. Okay. Oh yeah, there's sports, more than just holding it. I feel it's the follow-up that matters. It's one thing to host this type of events, but it's another thing to be proactive about the solutions we talked about. But yeah, sure, hosting this type of events is going to help. Just meeting like minds under one roof. Yeah, sure.
Going into the match, I'd expect the Nigerian men team to take all 3 points, seeing that we needed that points even more than Zimbabwe.
The Africa and Middle East Depositories Association, AMEDA, convened a gathering of financial industry leaders, policymakers, and experts for their 41st meeting at the Echo Hotel and Suites in Lagos on April 24, 2025. The conference themed Shaping the Future, Financial Markets and Infrastructures as Catalysts for Transforming Economics, saw experts and major stakeholders present at the occasion. Chairman of AMEDA, Mr. Abdullah Jafar, emphasized the critical role of financial markets in changing the economic destiny of Africa and the Middle East while making his welcome address.
It is with great pride that we have convened this assembly of senior officials, decision makers, and experts within the financial market sector. Your participation greatly enhances the significance of this conference and reaffirms our shared commitment to advancement of financial market structure and the strengthening of their function as an engine for sustainable economic development in the region.
The Governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, represented by the Honorable Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, Mr. George, gave the goodwill address at the occasion.
Lagos is indeed honored to host a gathering that places financial markets development and strong infrastructure at the forefront of our collective goals for growth and prosperity. Financial markets are essential engines for economic change. They mobilize resources, encourage entrepreneurship, and support sustainable development. This conference is a platform for forging partnerships, sharing insights, and mapping out our ambitious future for our financial markets. I'm confident that the discussions and collaborations that kick off here will birth new strategies and solutions that will benefit not just Lagos and Nigeria, but all our economies. As governor, I'm fully committed to creating a welcoming atmosphere for investment, innovation, and sustainable growth. Our goal is to turn Lagos into a shining example of progress, unity, and endless opportunities for everyone who lives and works here.
Vice President of Nigeria, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, in his keynote speech, outlined the government's initiative to strengthen the financial sector and promote economic development.
His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, you have not only found an ally in market reform, but also a steward of economic stability. Our administration is committed to strengthening Nigeria's financial market infrastructures through a deliberate blend of regulatory reform, capital market development strategies, and robust public-private collaboration.
The panel discussion focused on using capital markets as engines of economic transformation.
The challenge is, however, because there's a greater reach, then you have more investors that are being touched. It also means that people can come up with illegal platforms. We've just gone through that in Nigeria. They are springing up every single second. And so even as every single platform is coming up with its technology and deploying it with a massive outreach seeking to bring in more people, there should always be an investor education segment which would at least build confidence among the investors. And that's what I would continue to appeal.
Technology. I think that from a market infrastructure point of view, the idea is to make sure that we have a goal in mind. What do we want to achieve? What is the challenge? What is the problem there? Because we just discussed one of them. Okay, what about KYC, or what about facilitating the investment across the different countries and so on? And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
The AMEDA Conference 2025 ended on a high note, with delegates leaving with a renewed sense of purpose on its shared commitment to shape the future of financial markets in the region. Indigo Efunere reporting from BusinessDay TV.
First of all, I'm inspired by the fact that young people, bright, intelligent young people, are starting to take an active interest in agriculture. They can see the money. They can see the passion. I can see the passion. So for me, that was a major takeaway. Then, of course, we know what to do in agriculture in Nigeria. We've had hundreds of seminars and symposia about it. What we need to be doing now is to start identify our destinations, and start having seminars to decide how we will achieve our preset denomination, rather than trying to redraw the rule book all the time. Oh, several. We're pioneering the Noila, which is a dual purpose chicken breed that can change the face of protein malnutrition in Africa. And already we have over 1.2 million rural households. And we have nearly 10,000 mother units that are buying the day-old chicks, raising them for 5 weeks, and distributing all around the country. It's been very, very successful. We're very proud of it. Also doing innovations like empowering farmers for broiler feed production, for sellers of chicken and beef and fish and eggs. So we're very, very proud of what we've been able to achieve in the protein space, in spite of all the challenges, we're still forging ahead. Okay, for instance, our outgrower farmers, we give them subsidized day-old chick price because we're the number one producers of day-old chicks in Nigeria. We're able to give them a certain subsidized price. We give them feed. We give them veterinary pharmaceuticals, also at subsidized prices. And most importantly, we take the products back from them into our chicken processing plants in Uyo, Kaduna, Benin, and Ibadan. That way, we're able to produce a closed circuit, end to end, for the farmers. And we've, by the grace of God, been able to bring thousands of farmers back into active business. Well, there's a lot government can do, and I know they're doing a lot. I'm aware that there's quite a lot of effort, but like I said, we need to move away from from creating ideas to implementing the ideas we already have. And for instance, energy. Why is a farm in Nigeria paying an energy bill? In many countries, energy for farming is subsidized. The road networks, we were fortunate, the Oyo State Governor, Engineer Sheyi Makinde, visited one of our facilities and saw how horrible the road was. And we're glad to say that that road has been commissioned now. But how many people have that benefit? So infrastructure, government can help us with, and also the right environment, the economic environment. Government has no business doing agriculture. They have every business facilitating the production of food to get to the average Nigerian at the lowest price. And I wish them all the luck, all the best in the efforts that they're currently on.
The need for us to immediately future-proof our agri systems and make the country more food secure. We need more mechanization. We need an ecosystem of value chain actors coming together to build this. We need farmers to become more clusterized for interventions to work in a scale. Oh, very fantastic. So we work across 10 states in Nigeria, providing women farmers access to mechanization through cooperatives. We service flour mills of Nigeria, Coast rice. These are some of the biggest growers in the country. We provide fit-for-purpose mechanization from land preparation to harvesting services, and we have seen an increase in yield. Now, we deploy these solutions with an intent for the farmers to succeed, thereby becoming partners to the farmers for the future. We are at the verge of launching our e-commerce platform. It's called the Correct Farmer Platform, for farmers to access these products from the comfort of their homes across board, and the growing population of farmers that we have needs to have these tools at their fingertips. The government needs to make their policy more consistent. That's all.
Well, the topic is the future of agriculture in Nigeria, and I just spoke on a panel about future-proofing Nigeria's food security. There's a lot that we have said, but I think the major thing is we need ecosystem players to collaborate so that we can scale, because it's easier to solve the problem at scale than acting fragmented. And of course, beyond that, we need government to be more of a facilitator to bring ecosystem players together, ensure that incentives are well aligned for all players to play. And those ecosystem players will include service providers like input suppliers, from mechanization to fertilizer to seed, then to financiers, financial institutions where I sit. For example, we have funds, and then we provide loans to trade finance loans to commodity exporters, and we finance a number of companies in Nigeria. So you bring financiers together also that way, and then you bring companies that want to scale agriculture, want to invest in the sector. You bring them together and you align incentives for everybody. But we need to start doing things at scale. We need to collaborate, because to really solve the problem, we need to have like an integrated systems approach, so that we can truly handle the problem from farm to table. I mean, it's a broad question. That like I said, agribusiness is a complex system. So I can't prescribe 1 or 2, 3 actionable steps. The first is different players need to understand what their role is. And government needs to use their power in the most effective way. That's the first. So what's the best way for them to use their power? I think that is to bring players to the table, align incentives for all of them, and then ensure that it's implemented. So you bring farmers, you bring commercial investors, you bring financiers, you bring input suppliers, and then you find the right incentives, the right partners, development partners, and you ensure that that is implemented, right? That's one, but it's a complex problem. So there's so many. There'll probably be a list of 100 things to be done, but the fact is, we can't solve the problem the way we are right now, because we're fragmented. Most of the things we have is wasting. So we need a systems approach. In that systems approach, government's role is to facilitate, bring every important stakeholder to the table. And the third is, we then need to, all of those players need to take their part as financiers and investors, as service providers, as agriculture and agribusiness companies, and solve their own part of the problem.
For us, starting with especially when we talked about cluster,
you are watching Business Day Television.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the BDTV News at noon. I am Norma Obwona. Let's see what's making headlines this afternoon. Dangote Refinery reduces petrol gantry price to 825 naira per litre. Suspended Governor Fubara says he does not want his job again. ASU elects Christopher Piwuna as new president. US-China agrees to slash tariffs for 90 days. Amorim vows to resign if Man United poor form persists. Let's begin the news in Nigeria, where the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has announced a reduction in the ex-depot price of premium motor spirit PMS, commonly known as petrol, from 835 naira to 825 naira per litre. This new pricing, effective immediately, comes as a relief amid Nigeria's ongoing efforts to stabilize fuel supply and reduce dependence on imported petroleum products. Industry analysts say the reduction could lead to lower pump prices across the country if marketers pass on the savings to consumers. And moving on, Siminalayi Fubara, who was removed as governor of Rivers State, has claimed that he does not actually want his job back. This comes about 2 months after President Tinubu took emergency control of the state because of the leadership crisis. Fubara revealed this on Sunday, May 11th, during a memorial service in Port Harcourt for Edwin Clark, an important elder who led the Pan-Niger Delta Forum. The suspended governor also expressed concern that some of his supporters have actually made the political conflict worse through their actions. And still on, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has elected Christopher Piwuna as Professor of Medicine and Consultant Psychiatrist at the University of Jos as the new president of the union. The immediate past president, Emmanuel Osodoke, confirmed Piwuna's election in a chat with Business Day. Piwuna was a former Dean of Student Affairs at the University of Jos Plateau State, defeating Adamu Babayo, a professor of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, ATBU, Bauchi State, Northeast Nigeria, to emerge as ASU's president in an election held during the union's 23rd National Delegates Congress, concluded on Monday, May 12th at the University of Benin. And now to end the local news, the chief economist at Business Day Media, Dr. Oluyemi Adeosun, has attributed outdated farming methods, poor infrastructure, and insecurity as the major factors fueling rural poverty. Adeosun revealed this during his appearance today on Business Day television, insisting that modernizing agriculture, providing better financial support for farmers, and involving local governments could turn the situation around. And according to reports, about 75.5% of people living in rural areas are struggling below the poverty line. This is almost double the rate in urban areas, where 41.3% of the population faces similar challenges. The economist urges relevant stakeholders to focus on community-driven solutions, improve access to education, and push for policies that support women and young people to play important roles in the rural communities. And now onto the foreign scene, the US and China have agreed a deal that will significantly cut the import tariffs or taxes imposed on each other for a 90-day period. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says both countries would lower their reciprocal tariffs by 115% for 90 days. The announcement came after the two countries held talks in Switzerland, the first between the two countries since US President Donald Trump had levied steep tariffs on Chinese imports. Reports revealed that the huge tariffs caused turmoil in the financial markets and sparked fears of a global recession. And moving on to sports, Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim has vowed to resign if the team carries its poor Premier League form into the next campaign. The United's abysmal form hit another low on Saturday with 2-0 defeat at Old Trafford of West Ham, a side that had failed to win on any of its previous 8 matches. The result extended United's winless run in the league to 7 games, equaling their worst ever streak in the Premier League era. Since January 26, United has managed just 2 league wins, both against already relegated Ipswich and Leicester City, currently sitting 16th in the table with 39 points. And that does it this afternoon on the BDTV News at noon. I am Norma Obona. Stay tuned.
First of all, I'm inspired by the fact that young people, bright, intelligent young people are starting to take an active interest in agriculture. They can see the money. They can see the passion. I can see the passion. So for me, that was a major takeaway. Then, of course, we know what to do in agriculture in Nigeria. We've had hundreds of seminars and symposia about it. What we need to be doing now is to start identify our destinations and start having seminars to decide how we will achieve our preset denomination, rather than trying to redraw the rule book all the time. Oh, several. We're pioneering the Noila, which is a dual-purpose chicken breed that can change the face of protein malnutrition in Africa. And already we have over 1.2 million rural households. And we have nearly 10,000 mother units that are buying the day-old chicks, raising them for 5 weeks, and distributing all around the country. It's been very, very successful. We're very proud of it. Also doing innovations like empowering farmers for broiler feed production, for sellers of chicken and beef and fish and eggs. So we're very, very proud of what we've been able to achieve in the protein space, in spite of all the challenges, we're still forging ahead. Okay, for instance, our outgrower farmers, we give them the subsidized day-old chick price because we're the number one producers of day-old chicks in Nigeria. We're able to give them a certain subsidized price. We give them feed. We give them veterinary pharmaceuticals also at subsidized prices. And most importantly, we take the products back from them into our chicken processing plants in Uyo, Kaduna, Benin, and Ibadan. That way, we're able to produce a closed circuit, end to end, for the farmers. And we've, by the grace of God, been able to bring thousands of farmers back into active business. Well, there's a lot of government can do, and I know they're doing a lot. I'm aware that there's quite a lot of effort, but like I said, we need to move away from from creating ideas to implementing the ideas we already have. And for instance, energy. Why is a farm in Nigeria paying an energy bill? In many countries, energy for farming is subsidized. The road networks. We were fortunate. The Oyo State Governor, Engineer Sheyi Makinde, visited one of our facilities and saw how horrible the road was. And we're glad to say that that road has been commissioned now. But how many people have that benefit? So infrastructure, government can help us with, and also the right environment, the economic environment. Government has no business doing agriculture. They have every business facilitating the production of food to get to the average Nigerian at the lowest price. And I wish them all the luck, all the best in the efforts that they're currently on.
The need for us to immediately future-proof our agri systems and make the country more food secure. We need more mechanization. We need an ecosystem of value chain actors coming together to build this. We need farmers to become more clusterized for interventions to work in a scale. Oh, very fantastic. So we work across 10 states in Nigeria, providing women farmers access to mechanization through cooperatives. We service flour mills of Nigeria, Coast rice. These are some of the biggest growers in the country. We provide fit-for-purpose mechanization from land preparation to harvesting services, and we have seen an increase in yield. Now, we deploy these solutions with an intent for the farmers to succeed, thereby becoming partners to the farmers for the future. We are at the verge of launching our e-commerce platform. It's called the Correct Farmer Platform for farmers to access these products from the comfort of their homes across board, and the growing population of farmers that we have needs to have these tools at their fingertips. The government needs to make their policy more consistent. That's all.
Well, the topic is the future of agriculture in Nigeria, and I just spoke on a panel about future-proofing Nigeria's food security. There's a lot that we have said, but I think the major thing is we need ecosystem players to collaborate so that we can scale, because it's easier to solve the problem at scale than acting fragmented. And of course, beyond that, we need government to be more of a facilitator to bring ecosystem players together, ensure that incentives are well aligned for all players to play. And those ecosystem players will include service providers like input suppliers, from mechanization to fertilizer to seed, then to financiers, financial institutions where I sit. For example, we have funds, and then we provide loans to trade finance loans to commodity exporters, and we finance a number of companies in Nigeria. So you bring financiers together also that way, and then you bring companies that want to scale agriculture, want to invest in the sector. You bring them together and you align incentives for everybody. But we need to start doing things at scale. We need to collaborate, because to really solve the problem, we need to have like an integrated systems approach so that we can truly handle the problem from farm to table? I mean, it's a broad question. Like I said, agribusiness is a complex system. So I can't prescribe one or two, three actionable steps. The first is different players need to understand what their role is. And government needs to use their power in the most effective way. That's the first. So what's the best way for them to use their power? I think that is to bring players to the table, align incentives for all of them, and then ensure that it's implemented. So you bring farmers, you bring commercial investors, you bring financiers, you bring input suppliers, and then you find the right incentives, the right partners, development partners, and you ensure that that's implemented, right? That's one, but it's a complex problem. So there's so many. There'll probably be a list of 100 things to be done. But the fact is, we can't solve the problem the way we are right now because we're fragmented. Most of the things we have is wasting. So we need a systems approach. In that systems approach, government's role is to facilitate, bring every important stakeholder to the table. And the third is we then need to, all of those players need to take their part as financiers and investors, as service providers, as agriculture and agribusiness companies, and solve their own part of the problem.
For us, starting with especially when we talk about cluster, especially for agriculture, we are ensuring that our rice farmers are in clusters. So right now, we have in Lagos a cluster of farms of about 1,000 hectares that is going to go into rice cultivation. We have 500 in Igua, which is in Ogun State. So we're having a cluster of farmers so that we can leverage on technology, particularly when in talk with the drone producers for agro-input production, so that we can reduce the cost of production and invariably the cost of output. Yes, there's tractor on the go, and particularly again for the rice farmers, we're actually making provisions for technology to serve them and input to serve them in their clusters that we have created. They're already live, so you just need to be in those groups. You have to be a part of the cooperative, part of the farming community in those groups where they are.
It reinforces the fact that stakeholders need to meet, to discuss, and forge a way forward, and particularly planning towards the future, which this conference is all about. The future of agriculture is propitious, but we need to plan, we need to talk about it, and most importantly, hammering on getting on action. Yeah. Technology comes in different forms and in shape. For us at Integrated Area Precision, we are providing farmers with precision agriculture solutions, such as drone technology services for spraying, planting of seed, application of fertilizers, something like end-to-end, also helping them to detect pests and diseases early as possible. So our farmers, first of all, must have an open mindset to adopt, right? Accept and adopt this technology. And we can put from different stakeholders, we can put together models that can allow our farmers to be able to access this technology at scale. I mentioned during my speech, we need to move to cluster farming, move our smallholder farmers from a fragmented system of production to a clustered system of production that allows them have access, easy access, right, to these technologies. And not only technology, interventions from the government, policies can be focused on them, and they can be able to have a voice, right, that is aggregated, and strong. So, and with that, I believe that we can be able to have access to technology. And of course, we cannot put away the fact that funding is important, yes, right? So we can come together to create a model that allows these farmers not only acquire this technology, but the goal is for them to have access, either through services or through other models. Yeah. Well, I would say that the government is an enabler. The government enables by creating the environment, the enabling environment. And what do I mean by enabling environment? The policies, right? The policies that make technology to strive, the policies that allows our farmers to work more efficiently. And working more efficiently, talking about cluster farming, we're going to be talking about land clearing and land development, and that is the responsibility of the government. And because the the government is the owner of the land, right? So the government needs to do that and not moving away from land development into supporting farmers with, with the technology that can allow them to grow productively at scale and more importantly sustainably. So that's where government can come in. Okay. What's the difference? Well, this is 2025. One, but from our assessment, I can see the crop of stakeholders and professionals brought, in the room, and I believe that this is a hot pot, right, where these issues are being discussed, and I want to hope that from here we can be able to get into actions that result into real impact on real people, right? So beyond just talking, I can see the crop of people that is really significant and commendable. But what's going to be more important, and what I hope for through this conference, will be translating this discussion into action. Right? We can see government, we can see private sector individuals, we can see development organizations who are interested in the agricultural sector. Yeah, we can be able to make things work.
Like I said in my presentation, all the stakeholders in the agri ecosystem in Nigeria, especially the government and the private sector and investors, need to come together to a round table to discuss the possible investment available for the mechanization ecosystem, especially for making tractors available to smallholder farmers, affordable tractors. If we have tractors that farmers can easily pay for, all right, it will reduce the dependency on on crude equipment. Okay, so the call to action is for every player in the system to sit down on a round table and discuss how to make this possible. If it is investment, bring in your investment. If it is policy, how can government policy improve and impact positively on the availability of tractors? Can we, by policy, increase the number of tractors available to farmers across Nigeria? Can we, by policy, reduce the cost of tractors currently? So I think that is with the various stakeholders and the powers that be to make sure that tractors are everywhere for smallholder farmers. Yeah, and I think that's the way to go. With what we currently have, even imported tractors are not enough. Right, there's a huge deficit of almost about 200,000 tractors in Nigeria. We can make that up. We can make up that number by fabricating locally, by supporting local fabricators. I don't think we have up to 5 firms or companies fabricating currently in Nigeria. We can increase the number of local fabricators. We can make funds available to them to be able to include. We can develop markets for them. We can help them with demand. We can help them with all sort of their capacity to be able to adequately fabricate and manufacture and release these tractors to the farming population to enable everybody have at least enough tractors to farm their land. We provide technology services connecting farmers to owners of tractors, number one. We also work in policy, working with the government to see how, through the impact of policy, we can reduce drastically the effect of the economy on fabricators and manufacturers and importers of tractors. Right. Number 3, we collaborate. We work with every interested private sector player, public sector player, and farmer groups to understand the various challenges and how to play our role in reducing the problems. Yeah, it's definitely a limitation because, again, like I said at the presentation, if farmlands are scattered everywhere, it's almost impossible for any owner of tractor to make their tractors available. All right. So how do we start clustering farmers? How do we start bringing them together? How do we make it possible for a particular, for instance, a particular 200 hectares or 1,000 hectares? Yeah. How do we make it possible for farmers to actually cultivate together? Right. How do we build a farming community? Okay, so that when a tractor hits that community, the owner is able to till about 1,000 hectares or even 500 hectares or 2,000 hectares, right, without moving out of that community. So clustering is the way to go. Developing farming communities is the way to go. My major takeaway from this event is that if, again, all the stakeholders can collaborate and they mean it, it's possible to make Nigeria so food secure.
So I think number one, it's a myth to say that we don't have farmers in Lagos. In the last 6 months, 9 months to 1 year, we in the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Systems, we've been on farm tours, moving around various farms in the 3 agricultural zones of Lagos in Badagry, Ikorodu, and Ekpe areas. Maybe we don't have as many vegetable or crop farmers as you have in other parts of the country, because our farmers are more focused on poultry, livestock, piggery, and aquaculture. So they are also farmers. And then you have the artisanal fishermen as well. But we do have farmers indeed in Lagos. In the Ojo axis, for instance, Badagry, you have a lot of vegetable farmers. In the Ekpe axis, Ikorodu axis, you have a lot of aquaculture and poultry farmers, and in other areas you have pig farmers as well. So number one, it is a myth that we do not have farmers. Being here today at the Business Day Summit, moving Nigeria from food scarcity to sufficiency and what have you, it just consolidates everything we have been doing as a Lagos state government under the leadership of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, putting together a market-led transformation. I was very happy that in there, one of the panelists had mentioned that systems and building the right kind of systems for all stakeholders within the value chain is actually what is most critical, rather than giving silo-led interventions, which is what is the norm. And having a market-led transformation system is actually the fulcrum of all we are doing in the state government in Lagos State. And essentially, it is harmonizing all the efforts of value chain actors. So you're talking about logistics providers, you're talking about storage facilities being made available, you're talking about input providers, you're talking about market actors themselves, the market men and women, you're talking about aggregators, you're talking about financiers, you're talking about everybody and anyone you can think of in the value chain that would ensure that your food moves from the farm to your table. That is the essence of having a market-led system, and that is what we are doing in Lagos State. Building the largest food logistics hub, which will cater to the aggregation that is required to be able to consolidate all holdings around food and ensure that at least we have a minimum of 180 days of availability of food if there's a disruption in the system. Yes, would that guarantee?
That guarantee drop in prices.
Yes, that's the whole idea, because when you have enough food available, it means you take out fluctuations as regards availability. Also, you have preservation in place, because you can't store food without having the right preservation technologies in place. At the same time, the price point at which you buy, it means you no longer are subject to demand and supply fluctuations or even climatic conditions, because you have the foods available year round, and for that reason you can actually stabilize prices. These are areas we have seen are critical to the overall ecosystem in agriculture, and this is where we are putting our monies behind, to ensure that for the entire Nigerian space. And when we talk about agricultural food availability, Lagos is at the forefront. We understand our place as the largest market in sub-Saharan Africa, and we know that we must also collaborate with other states that have the capacity and capability to be able to provide the quantum of food that is required. So this is not just a silo game. It is for all of us, private sector, public, non-governmental, civil society, for all of us to partner, come together, and ensure that we have food available for everyone. So I hope I have broken the myth for you, but I mean, it's left for you to come and see what we are doing in the space, but we indeed do have farmers. I mean, come out during World Food Day celebration and you'll see that Lagos does indeed have farmers. No, when you say eggs are expensive,
Does it think that
in Lagos, we just rounded up the Onje Eco Food Farmers Subsidy Program, where we actually subsidize input feed for poultry farmers and aquaculture farmers. We gave a 25% subsidy. We worked with the likes of Olam and with the likes of Animal Care in ensuring that the farmers got the feed also directly from the manufacturers themselves. And that was able to help bring down the cost of eggs and the cost of chicken. and the cost of even fish. Right now, as I speak to you, at one of our facilities, which is the middle level hub at Mushi Idiro, that's a fresh food hub, egg is sold at the lowest price in the state. And when I'm talking about eggs, I'm talking about the largest sized eggs, and a crate is going for 5,300, whereas in other parts of the state we have eggs going for about 6,000 to 6,500 naira. The same thing is happening for many other products, and these are things that we are working on as a state government to say, when we have specific locations, when we have facilities that can be controlled in terms of quality, in terms of accessibility by the farmers themselves, where you negate the middlemen, then consumers will be able to access food at lower prices, and government will also be able to intervene properly and ensure that in terms of subsidies, in terms of interventions, it is going straight from government to the consumer, taking out the middleman in the whole space. My major takeaways from this event would be that, number one, we have actors who are really practicing within the space. And when I say actors, you're talking about from farmers themselves to those who are in the finance sector. And these are people who truly are catering to the people within the space, so they know what they're talking about. Number two, I'm very happy, again, like I mentioned earlier, it is a systemic solution that must be adopted. And a systemic solution means we cannot work in silos. We must cater to the issues surrounding logistics. We must cater to the issues surrounding storage. We must cater to the issues surrounding credit and finance and insurance and financial accessibility. We must cater to production itself. We must cater to climatic issues regarding ESG and what have you. We must cater to water resources even being made available. So when you put all of this together in one full basket, and solutions are tailored to each and every one of them, but in congruence with one another, then we'll start to have the right kind of solutions to the entire problem. The bottom line at the end of the day is food availability. What is food availability? It is when food is made available at the right price, in the right quantity, at the right time, to the right consumers. And this is where markets also come in. Markets help to harmonize all of these efforts together. And for you and I, that comes up to us in the form of pricing and in the form of the freshness and wholeness of the food. So this is what we are doing in Lagos State Government, and I'm very happy that what Business Day is doing here today, it just harmonizes for us all of our efforts in the last couple of years.
As Jovren Grow, we own 48,000 metric ton cocoa processing plants in Nigeria, which make us the largest indigenous cocoa processing plants in Nigeria and second largest indigenous cocoa processing plants in Africa. So as a group, we encourage value addition, and that is why we are into value addition, adding value to our commodity. So as a group in John Vane Group, we have some of our subsidiaries that are adding value to our commodities, such as cocoa processing. So in John Vane Industries, what we do is we process cocoa bean into cocoa butter, cocoa cake, cocoa powder, which are also served as raw material for some organization. And as a processing company, we also process cashew into some other derivative under the authority of our other subsidiary, Noble Eagle. We also process sesame. We process soybean into soybean oil. We process paddy rice into polished rice. And with this, what we are doing is to encourage value addition to our commodity and also to discourage food importation. We are encouraging local food production within the agricultural sector and also to encourage the smallholder farmers into farming and also to encourage the youth to go back to farm, because by adding value to all this commodity, we are also encouraging people to come and rather than exporting the raw commodity abroad. In John Vane Group today, we are partnering with over 15,000 farmers, and by 2030, we have a target of partnering with 150,000 farmers, and which means that in long term, we are encouraging more smallholder farmers. And also within our schemes, we have a scheme in John Vane Group. We have the Ingra schemes, and we have the hardware scheme. We are doing this to encourage farmers, especially from the small orders to the mid-level and to the large farmers group. And in John Vere groups today, we are encouraging cooperative settings. We are encouraging farmer groups in such a way that our farmers, especially both in our house growers farming scheme and hill farming scheme, we have different farmers group and we have different cooperative. And we are not stopping at that. As I speak to you, as of last week, we still have a team on the field encouraging cooperative formation so that we can have more farmer group within within our group to encourage smallholder farming system within our business. Yeah, in Nigeria today, farmers are suffering up to 40% post-harvest loss. We realize this as a business, as John Vane Group. And that is why we have built and we are still building small warehousing unit in every community where we have our farmer group in order to avert the challenges of poor road, like you mentioned. Before they bring in their commodity from the farm to the town or from the farm to the market, there are lots of losses. So in order to avert this, in each of our community where our cooperative and farmer group are established, we have our mini warehouses for them. And also through our logistic arm. As a business, we also have a logistic arm named Even Hauling, where we have over 100 trucks. So we have access to easy logistics. So through this, we move all this in bits from their local warehousing to the factory and also to the mega warehouses in the city. We also, through our transportation system that we currently established, we also encourage farmers and make transportation easier for them for moving their products from their farm to the local warehouse and also to our mega warehouses in the city and also to the factory for processing. Yeah, so our business, we are into both local processing and also into export of the finished products. So like I mentioned earlier about the losses that the farmers are encountering and faces on the farm, you also mentioned poor road infrastructure. So we need the government to intervene into all these challenges. This John Vent has provided solution to logistics, but how many can the private sector do? So we want the government to come on board and assist the smallholder farmers. Yes, there are schemes that we as a business have established to help these farmers, but we can only do this to the farmers under our group. I mentioned earlier that we are looking at 150,000 farmers by 2030. But in Nigeria today, we cannot reach all the farmers. We cannot provide solution to all the problems that all the farmers in Nigeria are facing. So we need the government to come on board and assist the private sector in order to help the farmers. Government might not be able to reach these farmers directly, but we have a chain where we can reach these farmers directly. We already established that platform where we can reach these farmers directly. And in another way of where the government can come in, they can assist with either no interest or very low interest loan, where which we can, or this can come through us to the farmers because we have a well-established microfinancing system whereby these farmers can get this loan without interest. Even as a business, as I talked to you, we give our farmers no interest loan. So if a business, a private sector could do this, then government can also do this. So we need the support of the government in this line and also to improve infrastructure, good roads, good roads, to solve logistics problem, and this will also encourage the youth to remain at the farm, and it will also reduce urban migration. The farmers will have peace of staying over in the farm. Yeah, so I mentioned that by 2030, we are looking at partnering with 150,000 farmers. And I also mentioned that we need government intervention in building roads, providing irrigation, providing potable water for farmers, making farmers' livelihood better. By the time we have support for 150,000 farmers in the food sector today, you will see the impact in the life of people, not even in the farmers alone, because food will be accessible for the community where these farmers are. Even in the nearer community to where the farmers are settled, there will be no food supply. The farmers and the community livelihood will be better. And as John Vent as a business, because these are our farmer group, the commodities that we trade in, there will be sufficient raw materials for the business to process. And through this, it's a chain from the farm to the business, from the business to the government, because when the business makes money, then the government will also take some taxes. So it's a chain. Yeah, so what we have done and what we are still doing is to ensure that we partner with both private investors and public investors. Recently, we partnered with BRI, and last year, we also partnered with IFC, and we also have some personal investors that are willing to partner with us because of the good work that the business is doing. Yeah, so in Nigeria today, agribusiness have access to maybe about 5% lending from commercial bank. And because our major commodity in Joven Group is cocoa processing is highly capital intensive. So because of this, for our business sustainability, the strategy we have adopted, like I mentioned to you earlier, is to encourage private investors and also public investors. Like I said, we partner with BII, and last year, we also got some funding from IFC and from some commercial bank. And because of the highly intensive, how the capital is, we are hoping for more investors to come into the business, for our business to grow bigger and better.